Before the episode begins, a quick note. Because of the way I have to have my audio set up due to the PlayStation 4 being a special little baby, Bandicam has to record Windows audio to pick up game audio. So that includes Skype audio. As a result, Spy's audio and Dark Souls are one and the same, almost as though they have mated to become a more perfect being. Quite revolting. I had the bright idea of raising the game volume, so I could reduce the audio track and overlay Franz's audio directly on top of it. Unfortunately, bad internet connections cause his audio to randomly go slightly out of sync, which means by the end of the audio track he was actually responding to things I had yet to even say. Neither one of us understands how exactly. Sometimes even individual sentences he would say would randomly go out of sync with his original audio, so I had to go in by hand and splice up, in some cases, even his original words to get the audio to match. So if you hear game audio go up or down, it's because I'm changing audio tracks, and if you hear friends go sort of metallic echo soundy, it's either because his audio track is desyncing with the game audio, or because his true persona as a murderous robot impersonating a human is finally emerging. One of those. Some of you may have not even noticed it unless I had said something, but I figured I'd give you something to complain about either way. I don't make a single penny off these LP videos, so if you want to feel like you have the right to bitch about something, I guess you can pay $1 a month to my Patreon or something. Anyway, enjoy the longest fucking episode ever. I am tired. Hello everyone and welcome to part... I did this once before, I can't even remember. Well, I guess it's probably like part 27.
25 or 26, something along those lines.
You don't know. I already did it once and you didn't even look it up for me. Such a terrible friend.
I'll go do that right now.
Well, with me today is German spy, Franz. Say hello, Franz.
Hello, Franz.
This is very funny.
I know.
We're going to be here all week.
I'm cute, aren't I? I'll be here till Friday.
You're very, very cute.
No,
But I have a couple of notes to go over before we get started into this. Real quick, maybe the reason for the blacksmith being stone is because of the occult, not necessarily just Seath. This is one theory that I wanted to bring up in the prior part, but I ended up forgetting about it because I'm a mushmouth like that. But you'll remember way back in part whatever it was, I was talking about the Moonlight Butterfly and the one that was made by Seath, and the blacksmith that was up on top of the tower there, and he was made out of stone. And again, in the Tomb of the Giants, we found someone very similar that was also made of stone. And I just wanted to point out that maybe that is because of an association with the occult, not necessarily just Seath. Because it doesn't make a lot of sense that Seath would be down inside of the Tomb of the Giants, or the seers that he has, the channelers, would be down in the Tomb of the Giants. So it might make more sense to say that the reason why that they are made of stone is because of some sort of experiments or ritual that the occult may have been conducting. And I talked about how the occult is involved in all the ongoing things that are going down next to Nido and whatnot. So that's done. And the second thing that I wanted to point out was that the white slab is used to reinforce occult weapons. I did not remember that at the time, but now I do, because you guys alerted me to it. So even whenever I'm wrong, I am absolutely right. Alright. But anyways, to the point, I will be talking with Franz today. He'll be helping along on this entire part. Not just the end, but he won't be watching me, unfortunately, because of various other technical issues. But he will be with me the entire time. What do you think about that, Franz?
Assuming you don't get tired of me before then and just kick me out of the call.
Well, I might. Who can say, really?
And by the way, it turns out that we are on episode 27 now.
Okay, so I was right, even when I'm wrong. I might have said 26, but I meant to say 27, so I'm also correct. Alright, but first thing we're going to do is have a little bitty chat with Quelana here. What do you have to say for us, sweetie?
You again. I applaud your diligence. But what have you brought for me?
Okay, so she does not say what I wanted her to say, obviously, because we kind of fucked up a little bit on the recording beforehand. But what was the word that she said before that I told you the Google that you probably already closed?
What? I didn't hear it. What word was it? Because we were encountering some technical difficulties last time, and
oh, that's right. That's what it was.
Your audio was not.
Oh well, but
she
said that
The Witch of Izelith. Please, do not speak of her. I abandoned my mother and sisters and fled to this land. Now I roam these parts, feigning ablution and pretending to seek answers.
Okay.
Ablution.
That's the word you wanted to know about?
Yes.
Ablution is basically ritual purification, ritual cleansing. It's kind of a religious term. It can mean either the literal act of taking a bath, of cleaning yourself, or a more symbolic kind of act of... I'm not sure if it's considered akin to confession, but it's the same idea of, oops, you did something bad, time to try and undo the bad thing that you did by ritual purification.
But this is the idea with her, is that she's down here feigning, in other words, she's pretending. That's what that word means. I'll take care of the easy one. She's feigning ablution.
Yeah, the implication seems to be she's using that in a really weird context where she's basically saying, I'm pretending to try to atone for the wrongs of the past.
She's on her spiritual quest to pretend that she's actually atoning for the fact that she abandoned her sisters and whatnot. And part of that is that she is one of only possibly 3 of her sisters that actually escaped without having gigantic spider bodies attached to their posteriors. And we're going to be seeing that later today, maybe, and maybe in the next part. Alright, but let's get a little bit more dialogue out of the way, then we'll get moving on and have a little bit of discussion with Patches.
Pyromancy is the art of invoking and manipulating fire. But remember one thing. Always fear the flame, lest you be devoured by it and lose yourself. I would hate to see that happen again.
Always fear the flame, lest you be devoured by it. I would hate to see that happen again. We know obviously what she's talking about. She's talking about her mother in regards to all that. But let's get one more little thing out of the way. I think she has maybe one more line of dialogue, and then we'll be done with her.
Pyromancy is the...
No, apparently that's it. Alright, so we're done with you.
No
Get out of here, Quelana.
Well,
no luck,
young pupil.
I suppose you can always overlay the footage that you captured in our failed attempt with her line of dialogue that you wanted to show.
Yeah, we really didn't miss anything anyways. All she does is just say that she left her sisters and mother and is feigning ablution. Which again is just her basically pretending to paying, you know, she's trying to say that she's pretending that she's paying penance, when in fact, really, she admits to being a coward, essentially, is what's going on.
It seems like it's really more for her own benefit and peace of mind than anything else that she's doing what she's doing. At least that's what she's implying.
In regards to her characterization, I will say that maybe one of the reasons why that we have pyromancy in the human world now is because, of course, she is the source of all pyromancy. She's who taught it to everyone in the world. And that is because originally...
Sorry?
And that is originally because, of course, the witches were the practitioners of the original form of sorcery, or more to the point, the life soul. They were able to manipulate life and so on, and fire was just an extension of that. And whenever we had the Chaos Flame, whenever we had that incident, it was corrupted into what we know as pyromancy today. And she was the source of all that. She taught it to the first practitioners of pyromancy, and it spread throughout all the entire world. And the reason, and I just wanted to bring this up, the idea that maybe the reason why that we have pyromancy today is because she was, again, trying to go through this process of ablution. She felt that maybe as she spread this to the human world, that maybe it would be some form of penance. Maybe. One interpretation. Go on, Franz.
It's entirely possible, but I think there's also a very strong parallel to the legend of Prometheus in her character, of giving fire to humans and then having to pay penance for it forever afterward. And knowing President Miyazaki, I don't think that's entirely coincidental.
He does have a love. That's kind of a thing that we're going to be running to a lot in regards to Japanese culture, the idea of taking in lots of things, not necessarily directly referencing them, but just using everything, which we'll talk about later, just not now. But for now, let's talk over to this hunched creature of the abyss that we have here in the form of Patches. What do you got to say, Patches?
Oh, we meet again. How many of you are there? You've come at the perfect time. I'm done with the looting. I'm a humble merchant now, and wondrous treasures have I, at a special price for you. There you are. Have a nice look at them. Oh, relax. No more funny business out of me, my friend.
All of his dialogue is very suspicious, even whenever he's being as friendly as possible. One of the things that kind of struck me as being odd about his initial dialogue is whenever you first talk to him, he asks how many of you are there, which is kind of unusual. I kind of get the impression that maybe that was... I don't know, maybe that made more sense in Japanese, or maybe he's implying something that I don't understand. Almost like he thinks that there's more of you, like the person you? I have no idea.
Well, that's after you've encountered him a couple of times, as I remember, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it makes... as far as patches goes, it sort of makes sense that, oh, it's you again. Is there more than one of you? Because he's seeing you so often or something? Maybe that's the joke? It's not really coming
That's
through
what I'm
correctly.
thinking. It seems to be a very awkward use in the original Japanese of a common English expression. Yeah, my impression is that, because that's, I think the line of dialogue he says before that is something like, oh, you again. How many of you are there? So he's like, oh yeah, there must be many of you if I'm running into you all over the place.
And of course, with these games, there is no Japanese voiceovers, right? It's just all English, because he wanted it to seem more authentic to the world that it's placed in.
Even in the Asian versions of the game, the voice acting is still the English from Frog Nation, yes.
Right. And I think most people should know that by now, but I just want to make sure that that was clear. So, whenever Miyazaki is writing the lines for these people, that must be very difficult for him, if he's the one that's doing that primarily. Which I would assume that he would want. This is something...
I think you and I might have talked about this before, that...
Well, he does all the item descriptions, of course.
He does all the item descriptions, but there was specifically a... I can't remember if another public statement he made, where he was talking about how... this was some time ago, I think it was related to Demon Souls. He was discussing how when they send their scripts off to Frog Nation, they, FromSoft, translates the scripts internally, and then sends it to Frog Nation, and Frog Nation takes certain liberties with the script and embellishes it a little bit or adapts it to be more suitable in native English. So that's how we end up with voice acting that doesn't contain things like, you spoony bard, or the truck have started to move, you know?
And thankfully, Frog Nation, they're a very good studio, so we don't really have to worry too much about inaccuracies or them taking too many liberties.
No, and they're fantastic. Their voice actors are all native speakers of English, so it's not like you're getting FromSoft hiring a bunch of people off the street who are only fluent in English on a grammar school level and saying, all right, idiots, we're going to give you 5 cents an hour, voice these characters in English. You know, that, and I say that jokingly, but some other developers might as well have done that given the quality of some of their voice acting, so...
And it's a good thing that they are based out of Britain, because that British accent is a lot more authentic to the atmosphere. You wouldn't want a bunch of American actors, you know, like I jumping in as Patches and talk, you know, I would never do such a thing to you. It would not
like
fit.
A plumber, yeah.
Exactly. But
Yeah,
let's briefly talk about his inventory here. I just wanted to point out he has all these various things. Actually, let's go straight through here. He has, let's see, Eye of Death, Divine Blessing, Prism Stones, and Humanities, of course, because it's kind of his deal. But Eye of Death, of course, we've talked about that in regards to Nito. Divine Blessings, kind of unusual that we would find these down here, but we can assume that the reason why he has these is because he's been murdering clerics. And he just so happens to have them because clerics would be the ones that would be carrying around holy water from the goddess Guinevere, or holy milk from the goddess Guinevere, whatever you want to have your headcanon happens to be. And of course, Prism Stones, I don't think there's really anything overly amazing about Prism Stones. I can't remember if I've even read the description of them. Well, let's go ahead and do
shiny.
that now.
Patches loves shiny things. He loves trinkets.
He does. Warm Pebble emitting a beautiful facing aura of 7 colors, with a very rare 8th. Huh, I actually didn't even know that. There's actually 8 colors, and one of them is very rare. This neat.
Supposedly, I've never actually counted the colors of the Prism Stones.
You're an expert on the matter, aren't you?
Well, to be fair, many
reluctantly, well, if you mustn't really know, yes, of course. Let me get the rest of this out of the way first.
Yeah,
the Rainbow Stone does nothing special, but can serve as a path marker and can be dropped off a cliff to judge height by the sound of its descent. So that's that bing sort of noise that happens. If a loud noise is heard upon its landing, then a fall off the ledge is surely lethal. That's what that means. So, go on, Franz.
Well, I was just going to say, the last time I really had a proper opportunity to even attempt to count the colors of the Prism Stones was back when the Dragon Head glitch still worked. And you could use it to just spit an infinite amount of Prism Stones onto the ground and immolate an area in rainbow colors.
I really miss that. You can still find videos of that, I'm sure, on YouTube, if you're curious about that.
It was great for Christmas.
But, let's see, there's a couple more things. He has Heal and Great Heal Excerpt. Again, I would assume that this would... It is kind of unusual that he's carrying this around, but at the same time, it would make sense that, since miracles are not things that you necessarily have to learn, they're just items, like they're physical pieces of paper that you can carry around.
Yeah, they're scrolls.
Then it would make sense that he would have
strip them off the corpse of some dead cleric.
And he has maces and 2 talismans, and I just got through buying it, but he also has the Crescent Axe, which I actually really like the Crescent Axe. It is a cleric weapon. We saw, Vince, I think, might have been the one that was holding it. I can't quite remember which one it was. One of those two nincompoops.
Oh,
one of them
Nico,
had it.
The mumbly guy, Nico, I think.
Poor Mumbles. I kind of miss him in a way. And if you missed out on the one of the other masks, you can just straight up buy them from here. You don't necessarily have to farm them from those guys. And I have 2 of the Mask of the Mother because one of them happened to drop from them. But we have the Mask of the Father and the Mask of the Child, which we have not looked at yet. So let's take a look at that briefly. One of the 3 masks of the Pinwheel, a necromancer who stole the power of the Gravelord and reigns over the catacombs. We've been over this before. This mask belonging to the Valiant Father slightly raises equipment load. And the Child, this mask belonging to the Naive Child, slightly raises stamina recovery speed. So the Child is associated with naivete, the Mother is associated with being kind, and the Father is associated with being valiant. This might be symbolic, or it might actually be referencing an actual story. I don't know. We won't go too much into it. And he also has the cleric armor and helm and so on. He has all this. Helm worn by the warrior clerics of the Way of White, who are famous for being unyielding in battle, is it is rather substantial in size and weight, making Solaire look even bigger than he actually is. I will definitely say that is true. Makes you look like a big fat ass. Alright, let's have one more line of dialogue with him.
Have poor taste.
You must have poor taste. I actually just bought something from
you.
him.
Are again. Well, welcome to Trusty Patch's Trove of Treasure. We chop prices, not limbs.
We chop prices, not limbs. Actually, as I recall, his prices are kind of high for the most part.
Yeah, but his pitch is worth it just to listen to. That's
yeah, that is true. He is like a used car salesman or something. He's more talk than he is
of the
anything
shadiest
else.
Variety.
But the reason why he gave us that dialogue of you don't want anything is because I bought something, then backed out, and then went back in. So it just saves whatever your last thing was. Let's talk to him, see what he's got to say.
Here, have you met that backwoods Shiva? Believe me on this one, bruv. The man is trouble. I can see it in his eyes. I just can. No doubt about it. Watch him.
So Patches is very suspicious of Shiva specifically, which is kind of unusual because you wouldn't think that he would have met him. Because if we get here very early on in the game, he is down in the catacombs trying to push and pull levers and whatnot. So there's really not much of an opportunity for him to actually see Shiva. So, what do you have to say about that, Franz?
I think that dialogue was probably recorded before Shiva's quest was cut. And I don't know how many of your viewers are aware of this. I imagine probably most of them are by now, because this was blown wide open a long time ago. But Shiva originally had a quest where he was basically supposed to do the same thing that Satsuki did in Demon Souls, where when you spoke to him later in the game, he would say something about, oh hey, that Chaos Blade, the legendary sword, sure is a cool thing. I really wish I could see it. And then you'd bring it to him and he'd steal it and run away, and then you'd have to go hunt him down in the painted world of Ariamis and kill him for it. So
right.
Yeah.
And we have been over this before in regards to all this. And I do have the cheated in Black Eye Orb that I will use this later, not in this episode.
Are we actually going to do that?
I'm going to do that later on. Not right now, though. So you won't actually get to experience the joy of that. Even though there's really not much to see. I mean, you go there and they're just there, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, they don't even have names. Their names were either removed or never entered. They're just NPC name, and it's Shiva and the Ninja. I think the dialogue is still there, though, so that might be interesting.
There might be. I can't quite remember. It might be the same exact dialogue that you get whenever you actually attack him, just because it's kind of hard embedded with them or something.
I think it's different.
Remember.
When you kill him in the Painted World, I believe he says something like, oh, who would have imagined that I would turn out to be the traitor? And he just laughs and, of course, dies.
Yeah, it's something like that. It's been such a long time since I've even seen it. But anyways, that's something we'll take care of later. But I have mentioned the whole Shiva quest being cut and whatnot, so you guys should be aware of that. So let's get one more line of dialogue from Patches. Let's exhaust it anyways.
Have you met that sunbathing Solaire?
The sunbathing
Solaire.
Solaire.
This one, bruv. He's a complete idiot. But he happens to be an awfully strong idiot. So just nod your head and keep him on your side.
This is fitting in regards to the what we're going to be talking about today, I guess. But the sunbathing Solaire, Patch's opinion of him is that he is an idiot, but he's an awfully strong idiot. It's kind of unusual. Whenever we actually look through his the armor descriptions, we will see that there's nothing particularly special about his armor. that Solaire is fucking powerful just because he himself is really damn strong. Like,
He
he's
pumps
just...
a lot of iron. Yeah, he spends a lot of time at the gym, and that's it.
He is this world's Batman, essentially. He has no superpowers. He's just fucking badass. So Patches is very aware of this, and he tells us if we actually meet him, just nod your head and smile. That's all you really need to worry about. Alright, anything else, Patches?
Wait, have you met Petrus? That self-proclaimed cleric?
Petrus? Yes,
Believe
I
me
know
on
him
this
well.
one, bruv. The man is scum. Don't you be fooled by his claims to do good. They're all the same, those rotten clerics.
So he says that Petrus is scum, and we really don't have to worry about that anymore, do we? But, in regards to Petrus, it's kind of unusual to try to determine why exactly he refers to him as being scum, because on one hand, yeah, he is kind of scum by our standards, but on the other hand, Petrus obviously does not like clerics at all, so he might just be saying that they're scum just because he is a cleric. Although it is kind of unusual that he would specifically reference Petrus whenever he could have also referred back to, you know, Rhea or the two nitwits, while at the same time talking about her and Petrus. So that is kind of unusual. So you might think that there might be something going on in regards to the both of them, although we never hear anything more about it. And I think that's pretty much it from him. Let me get one more thing out of him.
Boy, have you met Lautrec?
Oh, Lautrec, yes.
Believe me on this one, bruv. He's completely mad. He wouldn't think twice about cutting somebody down. So watch out for him. Especially if you've humanity to spare.
His dialogue in Lautrec is pretty it's pretty much to the point. Lautrec is not an especially deep character in the sense of he has a lot going on in regards to his inner conflicts or anything like that. We've talked about him as much as we can talk about him in the in Adirlando, one of those parts before. So I won't go too much into him, but again, Patches just sort of references anyone. Did you have anything to say in regards to Petrus?
Well, just that I think Petrus being called scum by Patches makes a little bit more sense if you've already seen the event, or gotten the dialogue, rather, with Petrus, where he's like, "Oh, Rhea slipped off the giant's coffin and fell on her ass. I sure hope somebody goes down there and steals all her humanity. Ha ha ha."
It does seem to imply... Let me say this. Because of all the cut content in regards to Petrus and all that, it's kind of hard to distinguish where the original dialogue kind of ends and begins in regards to logic. But Petrus, I think, does say that she slipped and fell off the giant's coffin, but at the same time, it's pretty evident that they got down there because, Patches is the one that shoved them down there. So it might imply that there was some sort of dealing going on between the two of them, and that they might have conspired to knock them down there so that Petrus could leave of his own accord. Do you agree?
Maybe, but I get the impression... I kind of think Petrus makes it sound like Patches didn't have anything to do with it, and Patches kind of just makes it sound like he's aware of the fact that Petrus is an asshole, but I kind of get the sense that if Patches had the opportunity, he would just as soon stab Petrus in the back, too. And the fact that Petrus made it out of the catacombs alive probably is a fairly good indication that Patches was not around when they went down there on their expedition. They probably wouldn't have let him hang around anyway, had he tried to follow them. Just because they don't want you anywhere near them when they're getting ready to leave on their undead mission. So I doubt that they would have brought along somebody as shady as Patches, but I don't know.
The other side of it.
You're right about the...
I was going to say the other side of it is that Petrus, as we learned through the description of the item descriptions of the elite cleric armor that you can actually get via normal means, is that supposedly he was also a well-known, a battle cleric. He wasn't just a normal cleric like Rhea and the two idiots were. He was actually someone that was actually battle-hardened, but was looked down upon, because he wasn't part of the upper class. So it is possible, I guess, that Patches might have seen that he was a bigger threat than the other three were, so he didn't really want to straight up mess with him or not. So it's possible, anyways.
I don't know that it had to do with Petrus's class. You, I think, discussed this in the previous episode, in episode 26, where you were talking about the caste system in Thorland, and how, I think it was in the context of Paladin Leroy, how pretty much anybody associated with the Way of White in Thorland who turns undead basically gets handed a couple of ancient treasures, sent on an undead mission, and they're like, "Hey, you're gonna go be a huge hero now, good luck, and don't come back."
That's right. They do not much care for them.
So I kind of get the impression that the reason Petrus and the others are in Lordran in the first place, and I think Rhea alludes to it, if not outright says it, or maybe Petrus or Vince do, I can't remember, but they say that specifically they are there on an undead mission, so all of them are undead, and in all likelihood ended up in Lordran in the first place because they became undead, and the Way of White was like, better wipe the records of their names.
And they were skidded out with like a broom, you know, just get out of here, go on, you know. And they all kind of had this lifestyle. But they did have lives before that, so I guess it's just kind of up to you to try to determine what all their motivations and stuff happen to be. And that's what I like about Dark Souls, is that it doesn't really focus too much on the mechanics of the world so much as the motivations of the NPCs play a bit more of a role, even whenever you're talking about things like the Church of Thurland and so on. Okay, let's get a little bit more from Patches. Let's try to get started on the actual content of this this part.
I'm done with the looting. I'm a humble merchant now, and wondrous treasures have I, at a special price for you.
Wondrous treasures, and I think that's all he has to say.
I'm done with the loot.
The looting humble merchant now. Alright, so that's all he has to say in regards to that, and I've talked about all that. Alright, let's get going.
You can do better than that. Nobody likes a tight
Where are we going?
You hear me?
No one likes a tight wad, you hear me? I guess I should buy something to get his actual confirmation dialogue.
Welcome to
Trove of treasures, chop prices, so let's buy something from him. Let's buy a single Eye of Death, just to see what he says.
Right. Good stuff, eh? Don't you forget who got it for you.
Everyone in Dark Souls is always so happy to do business with you. Alright, so today we're going to be going down into Lost Izelith. And we're going to be going down into Lost Izelith because I don't have a choice in that. It's either this or the DLC, and I didn't want to do the DLC right this moment. And by the way, even though I rolled back on a save, I went ahead and talked to Crestfallen again. Maybe it's time I do something about it. But he won't leave! I've rezoned several times and turned the game off and on and so forth, but he will not leave. Same with haircut number 2 over here, he also will not leave. Get out of here, you two! You need to be going hollow! For God's sakes, you're so lazy.
You need to, I believe, set the flag for another increment of progression, which I think is going to be just beating a boss or clearing through a certain section of the next area.
The way that, like, trying to actually get 100% of the dialogue of all the NPCs in the game in one run is pretty difficult, in all honesty. Now, I've warped back here in front of the fair lady just not to really talk about her, but just remember that she is here, and that we have killed Quelag, her sister. Remember all the dialogue in regards to her. She still is, if we're wearing the ring, she still thinks that we are Quelag. Just keep that in mind. Keep NG over here in mind, I guess, in regards to his pyromancy and whatnot. And I equipped Undead Rapport because I wanted to talk about this briefly. Let's go ahead and take a look at Undead Rapport's description so I can get this out of the way. Advanced Pyromancy of Quelana of Izelith. So we bought this from Quelana. This is the reason why I started on the episode on that, and I completely forgot about it. Charm undead and gain temporary allies. The living are lured by flame, and this relationship is part and parcel to the art of pyromancy, can be used by either gender. So it is unusual that Quelana is the one that actually developed this. So that seems to indicate that she might have had some reason to be manipulating the undead, manipulating humans that had fallen prey to the curse of the Dark Soul. And I wanted to point out that if we are to use this in front of, say, NG, I'm not going to use it on him, I guess, but if we were to use this on any of the egg bearers, or I think in the original Japanese, their names translate as egg backpacks or something like that. It's really strange.
I wouldn't be surprised.
But if we use it on them, it does not work. So you would think that these guys are not actually undead. Although that's kind of true with...
Engi flat out tells you that they're not undead.
They say, yeah, well, he says, what was it he says exactly? We're almost as bad?
Worse than undead, we are diseased.
Although I guess that could mean that they are also undead. It's just that they're even worse than that, if you wanted to look at it that way. But I'm kind of with you. And that it kind of implies that they actually aren't undead, which is kind of unusual. You would think, then, with, you know, how exactly are these things staying alive so long? But it could be because if these eggs and whatnot actually do contain humanity... Again, we've been over this, exactly how the logic of all of this works in regards to the eggs and humanity and whatnot. And the cut content, just don't worry about it too much. But if it is associated with that, then it would make sense that somehow they would, that would somehow make them immortal in a sense, I guess. You know, if we're just reading into as much as possible. But I just wanted to point out that it did not work on them. In fact, the number of enemies that Undead Rapport actually works on is extremely limited. Actually, nothing down here in Los Izelith, or just the greater Los Izelith itself. Nothing down here actually Undead Rapport works on, so there's really not much point in me actually bringing it, other than just the fact that I wanted to briefly talk about it. I actually have a list with me.
Before we move off the subject, though, Eli, actually, it bears mentioning that Undead Rapport does work on the fully sentient, although somewhat possibly crazy, Berg Merchant.
Yeah, you love bringing that up. I was going to mention that, because I do have the list of all the things that it actually works on. And one of the problems with Undead Rapport is that it works on a very limited number of enemies, and most of them are in the Undead Berg. Let's see, the Hollow Undead, which is, you kind of can find those in the Painted World of Ariamis, the Depths, Berg, the Asylum. There's, like, the Crystal ones that are in the Archives. Very limited selection, Armored Hollow, Undead Assassin, the Boulder Knights, of course, the Heavy Knights. The Butchers down in the Depths, which is kind of interesting. I think probably maybe the most useful might be the Blow Dart Snipers down in Blighttown. I've never actually tried it on them. That might be interesting. The Infested Barbarians, Necromancers, Undead Crystal Soldiers that I just mentioned, the Engorged Zombies down in the Painted World of Ariamis, the Phalanxes that are down there as well, and the Undead Merchant, of course, in the Undead Berg. Alright, sorry, go on, friends.
That's okay. The Blow Dart guys, if you use Undead Rapport on them, they'll turn around and start sniping enemies across the zone. It's nuts, their detection range. And also, did you get that, or did you mention that it also works on the big fat boulder-wielding enemies outside of Quelaag's domain? Because if you use it on one of them, he'll turn around and steamroll all the other enemies nearby with his boulder. It's pretty funny to watch.
The Infested Barbarians, yeah. Down in
Oh, okay, yeah.
I always forget what their names are anytime someone actually mentions it to me. I just think of them... That's kind of one of the things about Dark Souls. Of course, they don't really want to have official names, but they kind of have to.
Yeah.
You just kind of think... You just describe them as the big fat guys wearing the long loincloth, and that's the end of it.
Yep.
Alright, let me take a look at my notes here. So I'm about to go through Ceaseless Discharge, but I wanted to make sure that I give you something to talk about while I'm actually doing all the work here. Let's see... go through my notes. I don't want to pick this up just yet. I wrote down spy stuff on my notepad here. Los Izelith is the home of Pyromancy and the Witches. The friendly to Quelana is... I wanted to mention that the Demon Ruins, this is one of the first things. I'm going to be talking about translations throughout this episode, and Franz is going to be handling most of this, thankfully. But Demon Ruins, I just wanted to point out...
Do my best, anyway.
It's as direct of a translation as you can actually get. Demon, I think, is actually written katakana. It's Demon Isiki, or whatever the actual pronunciation is, and that's just ruins. So this is one of the few times that the actual translation is going to be as direct as possible. Some of them are, some definitely are not. Like, Blighttown is referred to as Yamimura, or Sick Village. And I looked this up, and I don't even know if this is actually true. But there seems to be some sort of connotation that the word that they're using in regards to village can also imply some sort of governmental division of resources, and this concept of one area being subservient to another in regards to it being a source of resources, and that something can actually be a quote-unquote village of another place. And it's often used in reference to the cities, and I couldn't understand a single word of it. And I don't blame you for not understanding it either. But I wanted to point out it is possible that they could be trying to make reference that the Blighttown area was actually a village that was handing over its resources or being a bitch town to some other place. Who knows? That's one possible thing. And before we go on, Ceaseless Discharge is, if I can even read this, Todare Suzukuru Mano or something. And this is a mouthful because the best I could translate this is thing that keeps being sore. It's its actual name, or that's as best as I could do.
I can jump in on this if you'd like.
Okay, what I'm going to do before I move on for this. Well, you notice that this corpse right here is female, and whenever we pick up the stuff from it, he is going to be very upset with this. And you notice that he is staring right at us, so let's go ahead and pick this up, and he can attack and kill me, and you can continue speaking as I die.
Well,
Go, Franz, go!
Alright, good luck, Eli. I guess it's only appropriate to start off with Ceaseless Discharge. His name, as Eli made the valiant attempt to pronounce, is, I think it's Tadare Suzukeru Mono. And the implication of that, it's made up of 3 different word parts. Tadare is sores of the type that appear on one's body from things like friction or excessive masturbation or various other
Wait, what?
Circumstances.
No, please go on.
Yeah, you'd like that, wouldn't you? The implication, and this comes partly from the description of the ring you get from the Centipede Demon, which was actually supposed to have been Ceaseless Discharge's ring, but the ring's description explains that Ceaseless Discharge was a klutz, and he dropped it, and where it landed, it turned into a monster, and that monster was the Centipede Demon. But the idea of the ring was that it was supposed to protect his feet from the lava, from the constant sores. And it was given to him by his sisters, who were the witches of Izelith. He was their brother. Don't ask me how that works. It's never explained anywhere, even implicitly, to the remotest degree in the game. But Ceaseless Discharge is the brother of the witches of Izelith. And
that is the lore. And he is already dead, by the way. And I've already drained all the lava, so that's done. And he drops a... Yeah, I'm kind of overpowered at this point. But he drops 1 humanity and 1 homeward bone. And in regards to him, yeah, Franz basically explained it as well as I could. That he is the brother of the witches. Kind of weird that they have a single brother. And I will point out that this is the only witch that I can think of in the entire game that is actually male. All the rest of them have been displayed, even in the opening cinematic, is they're all female, all the time. My kind of place, you know?
We don't know that Ceaseless Discharge himself was even actually a witch. He may have been something entirely different. The witches of Izelith that are depicted in the opening sequence of the game are human in appearance anyway, with the main witch of Izelith herself being considerably larger, as everybody who has a major soul seems to be. And nowhere in that intro is Ceaseless Discharge ever depicted, so either he wasn't around there and he was born later, or he just didn't participate. Nobody knows. I have a feeling that that isn't even something President Miyazaki thought too much about when he was writing that part of the story. But, yeah.
If I had thought about it, I would have gone to Seesaw and looked up the description to see what word they used whenever they referred to him as being a brother. Because it's possible that it might have indicated some nun-blood relationship, although I don't know. It is possible. A lot of the problems that I've been kind of running into... this is the only time I really wish that I could speak or read Japanese. Because there are so many instances in Dark Souls of things being just a little bit more clear whenever you actually go to the original translations. And I've been finding this out more and more as I go through the Seesaw Wiki, hand translating just grueling word hell ahead for me, because I don't understand any of it. It's so hard to read for me. I'm just trying to rely on Google Translate and just hand translating things via Wiktionary and whatnot. A lot of work. But it's possible that there is some indication of a nun-blood relationship.
It's possible. Incidentally, as to the actual etymology of Ceaseless Discharge's name, because you did express curiosity about that as well, the connotation of his name, again, it's composed of 3 separate parts. You've got Tadare, which is sores, Suzukeru, which means continuous, and then Mono, which is kind of a catch-all that just means a thing, like a noun thing in terms of a person, place, or thing. And in Japanese they use the term mono when they're describing something that kind of defies description, or that would take way too long to describe if you were to actually use kanji to create a phrase for it. So Ceaseless Discharge is literally a thing whose sores are continuous. And that appears to be where they got his English name, in that his sores are continuously discharging lava, so he's constantly in pain. I have to admit, when I first walked into that boss battle and saw his name on the life bar, I was a little bit weirded out. I wasn't quite sure what they were going for until I got the ring later from the Centipede Demon.
That was more or less what I kind of got the impression of in regards to his translation whenever I was trying to look it up myself. Oh, these poor Taurus demons die in 2 hits for me. I am definitely overpowered at this point. Now I'm going to be down here trying to take out all these things. In regards to the actual Taurus demons, you'll remember at the very beginning of the game, this is like with the second boss that we actually can fight, if we're counting the Asylum Demon. So we're down here, and I think that one actually does have a little bit different visuals. But basically, he's one of these things. And what these things are, I have absolutely no idea. We can just assume that whenever the bed of chaos kind of lost its shit and started spewing chaos all over the place, it got all inside of everyone's hair, and they couldn't wash it out, and that caused them to turn into various abominations. And I kind of get the impression that their designers just came up with a bunch of demon appearances. They said, we like the look of this, we like the look of this. And Miyazaki just took it upon himself to try to rationalize why all these things even exist in the first place. So, don't think too much about it. Just enjoy me killing all these poor hapless Taurus demons. No, come on. Great sword. There we go, there we go. Now, let's see. They do drop the, Demon's Great Axe, I believe. And one of the unusual things about the descriptions of these weapons, and let's go into that briefly, I guess. And it should be in this area. Like the Demon Great Machete, for example. I'll just go over this before. The Lesser Capra demons use these great swords in pairs. The blade is cast iron and hooked. And if we go down to, let's say, if I can find it. Let's say the hammer, the Great Axe, sorry. Demon's Great Axe, carved from the bones of fellow demons, wielded by lesser Taurus demons, which is what we're fighting right now. It is unusual that it implies that there's some sort of crafting going on in regards to these demons, that somehow the Capra demons are making cast iron weapons, and the Taurus demons are making weapons out of the bones of their own kin. So, apparently they have some degree of sentience, although not much. You got anything to say about that, Franz, as I continue battling these things?
Well, just another point to add to it, that there seems to be some degree of hierarchy between the demons and other beings. I believe there's a key. I think it might be one of the keys related to the lower undead bird. That its description specifically describes that the dogs in the lower undead bird serve the Capra demon. So clearly the Capra demon is running some kind of a dog gang or something like that. So I don't know, there's something going on there, but no, the demons do appear to have some level of sentience or intelligence or some level of ability to interact among themselves. Or maybe they're all just barbaric and they just find bones of other dead demons and they're like, woohoo, I can bash something over the head with this.
But if they're making things out of cast iron, I mean, they do have lava all over the place, so I guess there would be, you know, just some, like, ore and stuff, but they have to have some form of industry to be able to create those machetes.
Well,
although I guess this is another one of these...
more broad question.
This is another... Personally, I just kind of chalk it up to, we want this weapon. Stop worrying about it. And that's kind of what I chalk it up to.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm going with it. That raises the much broader question, well, where do the demons get their weapons? And the answer,
Who makes them?
Exactly, yeah, and the answer, I think, is really nod, smile, and don't think about it. It doesn't matter. They just have them.
The broader... Kind of what bothers me about it is that it creates this broader reaching implication of if they are able to have their own sort of miniature industry, even if it's rudimentary, then that seems to also imply that they have some sort of goals in life, which as they stand around in a big pile just kind of doing nothing, then it definitely doesn't seem that way. But it does seem to imply that they have some sort of goal in mind, that maybe the Bed of Chaos itself has some sort of goal in mind, which I really don't really get that impression, to be honest. I mean, what possible goal could she have? I've covered this before, but Franz, do you have any thoughts about that?
No, I don't either. Yes.
No.
Yeah.
Franz, can you
just
fill time?
My court. No, I do have some thoughts about that, but you might not like what I have to say about it. It's
Go
just
ahead.
quite simply that, well, demons are there to be the player's enemy, and in order to do that effectively, they need weapons. So you could say that that might be their goal in life. I don't know, it's how deep does the rabbit hole go when we're looking at the fact that demons, which we're not sure are sentient in the first place, are carrying weapons that they may or may not have actually made for purposes that are not abundantly clear to us, other than the fact that they want to kill us. And that really seems to be all the motivation they need for carrying those weapons. You know,
it does remind me that, oh, do I not have it? Oh, I haven't gotten it yet.
What?
Damn it. The demon's great hammer that we find from the Asylum Demon. God damn it. I'm thinking about multiple things at once. Okay, but it is unusual that we have the Asylum Demon in the first place. At the very start of the game, there is a demon in the Asylum. And you think, well, what's so strange about that? There are demons everywhere. There are demons everywhere in Lordran. The Asylum is, canonically, it's way far away from Lordran. That's why we need to use Velka's Raven to be able to get there in the first place. The actual, the undead asylums that are around all the world, I think there's 4 of them or something, are actually not, they're pretty distant from actual civilization, but they're also fairly distant from Lordran. We seem to get that impression. So the idea that a demon somehow managed to get there in the first place is really bizarre. And of course I kind of chalked it up to just gameplay. You know, we need a big, impressive enemy, and we may as well reference demon souls in the process. Because that's basically what the Asylum Demon is. It's just a reference to demon souls. But there is
if you're
that.
looking for a justification for its presence in the Asylum, there's always the issue of, well, if you live in Thorland or Astora, and you've got a demon running loose, and you don't know what to do with it, and you can't kill it, what do? Lock it up in an asylum and forget about it. And if you'll, I think you probably already addressed this long ago, but the Stray Demon, the one in the prison underneath where you first fight the Asylum Demon, he is, by no accident, locked up behind bars. So my guess is that not only is the Asylum where they throw undead that they don't want anymore, but it's also where they throw the demons that just show up and start destroying cities and stuff, and they don't know what to do with them. So, yeah, throw them in that asylum up north with all the undead. Granted, it raises other questions about how a bunch of random dudes in Thorland would be able to subdue a demon for long enough to drag it to the asylum if they're not able to outright kill it. So,
and
I don't
also,
know.
you would have to think that if they're casually delivering, because it's obvious at some point that the asylum was used to actually imprison people, because they're, you know, it's a barred up area. They actually used to just straight up imprison people and, you know, maybe guard them, although they obviously long since abandoned that practice. So you'd think that if demons have been hand-delivered there, that's been a very recent practice. But you would think that if, you know, they do that once, let's just throw this big demon over here, you can't deliver any more undead to the location without great risk to yourself. So that's a little bit silly. And I just wanted to point out for the sake of our viewers, I did not pick up the items that, like, you see 2 items that I've passed by in regards to the lava. I'll wait until I have the ring to actually go get those things, because it's very easy to die, even if you're very, very quick about it. So I'm just not going to bother for the sake of not having to worry about it. I'll briefly put my foot in this lava just to give you an idea how fast this is. So I lost like a quarter of my health in like a split second, just from kind of doing a circle in this lava. So it's pretty fucking dangerous. You need that ring, for the most part. I think usually, since I'm playing on PC, usually I'll just fire up a trainer and just give myself infinite health, because I don't feel like walking back here once I get the damn ring. But for the sake of you, my beautiful viewers, I will endure. But we're walking down the path down here, and since I am human, we're going to get Kirk to appear. And he's a bit of an asshole, so you got anything to say about Kirk before we actually go right into it?
Yeah, he's a bit of an asshole unless you riposte him off the edge and kill him in one shot, but then you don't get his drops.
Well, you can reload the game, I guess.
You can, but that's really only if you care about getting the trash that he drops.
And he's dead.
Great.
He appeared and just ran towards me. He rolled for some reason. And I just
did he
killed him
fall
in
off
2
that
hits.
little broken section of the path?
No, I just straight up killed him because I'm so overpowered. Oh, poor guy. So he's dead. Let's go ahead and retrieve his remaining power. Humanity acquired, blah, blah, blah. Some people were asking how come I didn't get the, like the barbed sword or whatever. And it's because his drops are actually random, whether or not he will actually give them to you or not. Let's see what he dropped for us here. Spike shield. So he did actually drop something for us this time. Let's take a look at that real fast. Spike shield. We won't get his armor until later on. Shield of the infamous Dark Wraith Kirk. So he is a Dark Wraith, according to this. Knight of Thorns. And I think that's pretty accurate to his actual name in Japanese. In Japanese, it's like, he is the Thorn Knight. Cover with spikes. Can be used as a weapon. So if you equip this, you can actually use it offensively. Sharp spikes cause heavy bleeding. So not much to go on in regards to that. But we have fought him once before. You remember, in the depths. Why exactly he was in the depths, I don't know. It is kind of unusual. It kind of makes a little bit more sense that he'd be down here. Maybe it's because... I don't know. The depths... Maybe it's because there were so many people there at some point that were just vestiges of what remained of humanity, so maybe he was there to get humanity? Because it describes him as being a Dark Wraith, but as we learn in the radio interviews with Miyazaki, he's not actually a Dark Wraith. He's actually a Chaos Servant. He is a servant of the Fair Lady, which we will learn more about later on. You got anything to say about that before
But
we
he would
proceed?
also... Yes, he would, in order to be able to invade somebody to obtain humanity in the first place, he would need to at least borrow the power of the Dark Wraiths. So I don't think Kirk being a Dark Wraith and a Servant of Chaos is necessarily mutually exclusive.
Right, it's not in conflict directly.
Yeah, I mean, he'd be using at least cracked red-eye orbs, which don't even require him to be in the Dark Wraith Covenant, but he's still basically doing the same thing as the Dark Wraiths, and he would have had to have some contact with Darkstalker Cav to have been able to obtain orbs. So, you know, I mean...
Well, not necessarily.
Well,
I guess he could have just, you know, found some, like we actually do in one or two areas. Like, the first thing that you can actually do, you know, whenever you land in Lordran, is you can go get some red eye orbs.
There's
from
the
Tetris
chest, I
stuff.
think, with 6 of them, yeah, but...
Yeah.
But
it's
either
very
way,
limited.
Yeah, it's possible he found some. It's possible that he was consorting with Cav, but one way or another, it's entirely possible that him being a Dark Wraith is still canon, despite him actually serving the Chaos Covenant.
But you are correct in that you can interpret this as meaning that he is a servant of Cath, or at least took on his power at some point in history. That is possible. Usually the other human NPCs, I'll say it this way, usually seem to be implied to be from other worlds. They're basically taking the place of other players. They have their own stories and so forth. And you can read it as being he is another chosen undead, sort of like you are, the main character of his own world. And in his world, he is cited more on the lines of Cath, potentially. Which, even if you kind of ignore all the logic of whether, you know, all that shit, more to the point, he is not someone that is being taken in by Frampt, I guess would be more the point, if you're looking at it from that perspective. And that kind of fits more along the lines of his character. That he is someone that, you know, is, what's the word I'm looking for? But he is emboldened to his own power or something. You know, he's his own man, I'll say it that way. But in regards to him, his motivations, we're going to learn a little bit more about that later, potentially, in this episode, although maybe not. It kind of depends on how fucking fast I am. And I'm not very fast. Let's get rid of the last of these little statue guys. I will point out, we've been talking over this, but the easiest way to get to the second bonfire is not to slowly kill all of these Capra demons, because that takes fucking forever. Just jump down, kill that little worm guy, and then light the bonfire, and you're done. There's nothing even up there. But if you want to fight those guys, I guess you can go back upstairs and do it. It's a waste of time. But all these little statue guys, I really don't know what the statue guys reference. I can't even remember what their names are exactly. But they are all over the place. And it is kind of weird. They're obviously there to look like they're part of the architecture. Again, I kind of chalk this up to Miyazaki just having the character design and being like, they're a demon. Stop worrying about it. You don't have any information on them, do you?
The statues, not specifically, but they do slightly resemble snowmen, don't they?
Snowmen?
Yes.
Put little carrots on their faces? Yeah. I guess they kind of do.
I think maybe in an ironic sense, I'm just speculating here, but that might have been some kind of in-joke on the part of whoever handled the character design for that particular enemy. It might have been, hey, you know what'd be funny to put in the lava place? A snowman. How do we make it believable? Oh, make him out of stone. Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, that'll work.
It may actually be a reference, because I was talking to you about this before. Oh, goddamn, more of them. I was talking to you about this before, and you said you hadn't known this before, but a lot of the areas of Los Izelith are actually based off of Angkor Wat, which is, I think, the largest religious construction in the world. You know, in history.
It's a temple in Cambodia. Yeah. I didn't realize that Izelith was based specifically on Angkor Wat, but yeah, Angkor Wat is
inspiration from.
Yes, and that's not surprising to me, frankly. I see the resemblance totally.
If you do Google images of it, it should be pretty obvious what the similarities are. There's lots of
these...
I
know what it looks like. I wasn't aware that it was actually
I'm talking to the viewers more so right now.
Ah.
But random viewers, if you Google images of it, it should be obvious what the inspiration is. Like, for instance, I'm looking now at a bunch of roots and shit all over the place. And that, you know, that's kind of what it is at Angkor Wat. It survived over the centuries because, I was explaining this to Franz earlier, but there's a gigantic moat surrounding it that kept the encroaching jungle around from actually consuming it during a period of history in which it was abandoned for the most part. But if you actually go there, there is still a lot of plant life, and it has consumed a great deal of the area. So it does have this sort of natural look to it, where there's... and I'll say this about Angkor Wat. We'll see more of this later once we actually get to Los Izelith proper. But it's considered to be a meeting of Western design elements and Eastern design elements. Not Western in the sense of European, but, you know, more Western in the sense of, like, Indian and things like that. So there's a lot of... What Miyazaki is trying to convey here in regards to this game is just that there is a sort of, I guess, melting pot. It's kind of ironic, I guess, given the fiery nature
I
of
see
this.
What you did there.
Yes, I'm very clever. But it is, you know, it's just a melting pot of cultures, I guess, is what he's trying to convey. But in regards to the nature of chaos and discord, his approach is not necessarily a Western perception of chaos so much as it is unfettered growth, I guess would be more the way of looking at it. I don't know a whole lot about Angkor Wat, so I can't really reference it too much. Come on, go ahead. There you go. The reason why I'm going a ninja flip today is just because of the iframes. It's... Ooh, I flew for a second there. But it's kind of difficult to deal with all these things because this whole area is pretty cheap for the most part. It's common knowledge that they kind of ran out of time. Oh, forgot an item up there. That they ran out of time as far as Izelith goes. Like the big field of Taurus demons down there, it's kind of just there to waste your time. And to make the area feel a little bit more complete than it actually is really what's probably going on. That's why it looks so bad. But... Crap, I can't even remember what the hell I started going on about. But in regards to... Yeah, in regards to Angkor Wat, I can't really say too much in regards to why he chose what he did. Other than that does seem to be his perception of what chaos happens to be. That it isn't just straight up, you know, just things are going crazy, so much as it is a warped form of life. And that's what the life soul is supposed to be. The thing that the witches all use. Like we use the dark soul and the witches use the life soul. It's supposed to be, that's what the bed of chaos is. It is a warped form of life. As I go down here and try to get this stupid ember that I don't care a single thing about. And these worms are a big problem. The spit that I think the spit actually breaks equipment, if I remember correctly.
It does, but those 4 worms that come out of the ceiling on the way to the ember, you can just run right by them.
Yeah, but then you have to actually get past them again. Which is kind of more the problem. But let's go ahead and pillage this. Large flame ember. Let's read that real fast. Large flame ember. Oh, I always forget where the thing is. Large flame ember. Ember required for weapon ascension, large flame ember used in ancient rites, handled only by blacksmiths knowledgeable in ancient methods. So, another one of those things doesn't explain anything at all. The only other thing that we really know about this, I think that we take it down to the... Who is it? Is it the,
Vamos.
Yeah, Vamos or whatever. Vamos! We take it down to him, And I think this is the source of the dialogue that we get from him in regards to him describing it as being something in regards to New Londo. Or that's the large ember.
That's the large ember, I think, yeah.
And I can't remember what he says.
Very large ember.
I guess we'll get more about that later. Oh,
this ember, I think... I don't remember. I know the one up above, the one where Ceaseless Discharge was standing, is the Chaos Ember, and that's the one he talks about being the flame of the legendary witch.
I'm trying to clear out these stupid worms. God. The problem with these worms, even though they're stationary, they have these attack animations where they rear back and they move way out of the range of your weapon as you are attacking. And they also have a pretty substantial amount of range themselves, so it's kind of difficult to deal with them. But I wanted to briefly point these guys out because of the Centipede Demon that we're going to be seeing in a bit. Oh, Lord. That there is there is this theme in regards to these guys. Big, large worm things that come out of the walls. Earlier, the egg-carrying guys, if we smash them, then all the little worms pop out. And later, we're going to be seeing the Centipede Demon. So whether there's an actual link between all these things, I don't know. But that is a thing. There's these big worm things everywhere. They're big worm things. The end. So I try to get around these guys. You don't have anything to say about wormies, do you?
Well, there's a possibility, although it's never really hinted at, and the connection is purely aesthetic, that the worms encountered farther down in the Demon Ruins may be the adult form of the ones that are parasitizing all of the egg carriers who are supplicants of the Chaos Covenant.
And again, I've tried to rationalize what exactly they're trying to do with these damn worms, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense. Because, oh lord, it's so confusing. And again, I kind of chalk it up to a mix of just do it and a mix of cut content. But think about the logic of how all of this works briefly. Well, I completely forgot about this item up here. What is this? I don't think I've ever even gotten this.
I don't know that there's any logic to the Centipede Demon being here in the first place, because you'll recall, and I believe you mentioned this yourself, the Centipede Demon was originally the boss that you were supposed to fight on the roof of the church.
Right.
The gargoyles...
It's just an early concept, and they're like, just throw it in there.
Well, they thought, wait a minute, it makes no goddamn sense to fight a giant fire centipede on top of the roof of a church. Let's do something else. So that was how the gargoyles came about, and then they moved the Centipede Demon down to the Demon Ruins.
Right. I think I actually have mentioned that before, but that's the general idea. That item that I picked up was just 2 green Titanite shards, by the way. I was really excited because it was an item that I had never picked up before, because I just never bothered to notice it before, and it turns out to just be garbage.
That's what you get for getting your hopes up.
Yeah. I was going to say, in regards to how all the Chaos Covenant and stuff, things work, I've been over this so much before, but the idea of the Fair Lady exists. She's one of the daughters of Quelana, I'll just call her that, the Witch of Izelith. And now she's a spider, and Quelag apparently used to be the Covenant leader of the Chaos Covenant, but they got cut, and now it's her. And the gist of it is that Quelag is trying to collect humanity because she's trying to give it to her sister, and her sister is laying eggs, apparently, that aren't moving anymore, and the guys that aren't undead, but are just ordinary people, have these eggs on their back, and then you slash them, and then worms pop out, and maybe they also have humanity inside of them, but maybe they also don't, and the worms grow up into big giant worm things. But why would they be growing up into big giant worm things? What possible purpose could that have? I don't know. It's a big clusterfuck, and it makes no goddamn sense.
Welcome to the wide world of souls, Eli.
Oh, you don't have to tell me about it. I just wanted to point out how frustrating it is trying to make any sense out of all this. Especially in regards to Lost Izelith and the witches and the Chaos Covenant and all that. It really just does not make any sense at all.
Well, I don't think it was ever expected that anybody would read that far into it. I mean, Demon Souls...
Only I would think about such things.
Well, I don't know that you're the only one. I imagine that the majority of the people listening to this are probably sitting there
being
thinking,
forced to.
Oh, these two crazy guys are onto something. But who knows if we actually are, but no, Demon Souls, they never expected it to become the hit that it was. And even when they began development on Dark Souls 1, they had no idea whether they were going to be able to achieve the same thing again. And they didn't really have the kind of sense that they have now of what people love about the games and the fact that people love picking these little details apart. So I don't think that all of this was engineered to be picked apart to the degree that you and I now are.
Of course it wasn't. I mean, it is... We kind of read so much into these games. But at the same time, it's amazing in the first place that they even attempted to incorporate as much as they did in the first place. Now I'm fighting the Demon's Fire Sage, if you're wondering what the hell's going on. I'm trying not to get myself killed. I use Power Within rather foolishly, but I kind of just felt like it. Well, even though this guy is someone that I fought before, it is kind of easy to get yourself killed by him. Especially
mainly due to the geometry, I think, more than the boss.
Well, he also uses these very long-range magic attacks. Whoops. Mistimed my jump on that one.
Yeah, his AoEs are very difficult to avoid, especially if you get caught in front of him. That's the worst.
And since, thankfully, I am fairly overpowered for this area, so it's not going to be quite as bad as it could be. Although it's still very easy for me to die here. Like, a speedrunner will probably just use the weapon swap trick to, like, use a Black Knight Halberd with the S-Stock rushing moveset and just poking to death in, like, 2 seconds.
Yep.
Okay, drops 1 humanity, and I can pick up off of him a Demon's Catalyst, which probably has a very flimsy excuse for why it exists in the first place. Let's go find that. Oh, such a kind of forgettable boss in many ways. He's kind of only memorable just because, you know, they used him twice. Let's see. Demon's Catalyst. Demon Catalyst formed from Izelith molten rock. Can be used as a fire weapon, why not? The Demon Fire Sage was the first demon, so I guess there is some lore in regards to this, and the last master of the original fire arts before the Witch of Izelith was engulfed by chaos, creating pyromancy. I will say that this is kind of interesting, because it does kind of imply that the witch herself was not responsible for what happened so much as maybe this guy being the master of fire arts, maybe he was the one that she was telling, you do this, and he fucked up, and he became the first demon, and because her body, her soul, is so greatly tied to the essence of life and the life soul, that she's the one that ended up becoming the bed of chaos. Maybe. That's one thing that you can read into it, I guess. What do you got to say, Franz? I know you're just aching for it.
It's one possible interpretation, but the description of this particular item is fascinating to me, because it implies that the Demon Fire Sage existed before the Witch of Izelith was engulfed by chaos, which is stated in other spots to have been the point when demons started existing in the first place. So either the Demon Fire Sage was not a demon before that point, he was a master of the fire arts the same as the witches were, and just became a demon when the Witch of Izelith and the city were engulfed in chaos, or else he's supposed to be some kind of weird exception and somehow was a demon before demons were a thing. I think the former is probably a much more supportable and plausible explanation, but it's fascinating to me nonetheless, because nowhere else in the story's canon is the Demon Fire Sage mentioned, but yet the description of his catalyst seems to be suggesting that he was somewhat important.
I really want to say that the reason for that is that Miyazaki realized, oh, we have to reuse this thing because we're running out of time. I need to make it seem less like just a throwaway thing. So he writes the item description to try to imply that it's something very provocative, when in fact he probably didn't even really think about it too much. He's just like, he's something. Here's this. That way it can be as confusing as possible. That's the best thing that I can come up with.
I'm
most rational, anyways.
I think I'm with you on that theory. I'd be fairly willing to subscribe to that.
It is... This elevator that I'm riding up, this elevator leads all the way up to the Fair Lady's chambers, is basically what this is. It is unusual that, remember whenever we first came into this area, this was already here, this elevator. So this elevator actually followed us all the way down to Los Izelith. Don't question why, it doesn't make any sense. And don't question why exactly it is a chaos fire themed elevator, that when we step on, lights on fire. Because who the hell would have made this? Stop stop asking perfectly reasonable questions. Stop it. But that opens up the path for us. And we're about to get to Solaire, basically. Now, I need you... This is what I was... Remember far back in our own private time together, whenever I was leaving to go get a drink of water, I was going to ask you, and I forgot, what is the exact sequence of events that you need to do in order to get Solaire to be rescued, but at the same time to actually show up? Because my prior experience was I have rescued him in the past. But apparently you also need to beat the Centipede Demon in the process, or else he does not appear as a summon later on, at the very end of the game.
Yeah, what triggers him to progress on the path where he goes nuts is if you pass through the Centipede Demon boss room and out the other side and enter Lost Izelith through that direction. In order to be able to save him, beat the Centipede Demon and then backtrack, go back the way you came, up the inexplicable chaos fire elevator that nobody understands why it's there. And make sure that you have your Chaos Covenant level at least 2, which means trading 30 humanity into the Covenant. And then you go back down and open the door into the back way of Izelith, and Solaire is going to be there.
Okay, so we're going to go down here and we're going to try to kill the Centipede Demon, which can be a bit of an issue. This is not a great boss fight in the first place, and I'll go more to that in a bit.
You'll also want to summon Solaire for that. His sign is right outside. You knew that, though.
Yeah, I'm thankfully still human. I have managed to somehow survive all this without dying once while talking at the same time. Not really used to doing this sort of commentary, but let's go ahead and summon Knight Solaire, or Knight Solaire, as I was talking with you about earlier.
I think actually in katakana, the closest approximation I can come up with for him would be Sorea. But
yeah, but if you were translating into English, that would be like a big mouthful. You wouldn't really say that. And I was kind of figuring, well, if you were just to transpose all the letters, like, like Sora, like, you know, you wouldn't say Sur, you would say like Sol. You know, since there's no, you know, L and R, you know all this shit. So I was just kind of assuming, well, if it's going to be written out as S-O-R-A-R-U, if you're trying to pronounce it that way, then it would probably be more like S-O-L-A-R-U, and you would probably just drop the U, obviously, since that's a weird Japanese thing. So it would probably be something more like Soul.
I have a feeling it'd probably...
But the way that you translate things from Japanese to English and so forth are not exactly, crystal clear.
Katakana translations are not an exact science, unfortunately, particularly because all katakana is a way of phonetically representing words that are not Japanese in origin. So if you have a name like Solaire in English, the closest approximation to that I can come up with on my own is So-Re-A, which is S-O-R-E-A. So I have not actually seen Solaire's name in katakana in the Japanese version of the game, so I can't be sure. But
it should be in the list I sent you.
Is
or
it?
it might not be.
I don't
should
believe...
I may have been the one that I didn't actually write out.
Let's see.
But I do have another example of this, and it is Laurentius of the Great Swamp, and this is something we haven't been over yet. But I'll just briefly mention this as Solaire stares at me. He has nothing better to do. Laurentius of the Great Swamp, in Japanese, you have it written out already. I don't have it written down how to pronounce it exactly. But he is, I think that his name is actually translated as being Shaman of Onuma. And his name is Rorintusu, or something like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of, in English, it's a big mush mouthful. But it's basically Laurentius is what they're getting at. Or
which is interesting to me because in a number of cases, there are, and I say a number of cases, I can't call any to mind off the top of my head, but there are NPCs in the games that have completely different names in Japanese than they do in English. And in some of those cases, I suspect it was probably a matter of convenience, where the Japanese name just did not translate well phonetically, so it was just replaced with something else in English. And I see here that in the list you gave me, Solaire's name in Japanese is pronounced Soraru. So, yeah, I guess you were right. It is literally Solaire.
I'm the expert in Japanese now.
Well, more to the point, you looked up the katakana before we started this recording.
Yeah. It is unusual because, like we said, all the recordings are in English, so they still have to actually use the English names. So it's strange that they're going out of their way to make Japanese-only names that are only showing up in, I guess, the guides for the most part, because a lot of the times they're not going to show up in text at all.
Well, they would also show up in the subtitles. For example, when the NPCs
if they actually say the names, yeah.
Yeah.
So that is the case. But at the same time, you can read it. If you're Japanese, you're reading it, and you're sounding it out to yourself, and what you're hearing is not the same thing. So you would think that he would have gone out of his way to make sure that they're as close as possible, rather than just dropping a name entirely, which doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So that is one of those really weird things in regards to that. But I wanted to bring up Laurentius real fast because if you were paying attention with your keen little ears, it is Laurentius of the Great Swamp in English.
Right.
And in Japanese, he is a shaman of Onuma. And you might be thinking, what the hell is Onuma?
This brings us to Onuma, doesn't it?
As I fight the Centipede Demon, you explain all the stuff in regards to Onuma. And I will briefly say that it is fitting in a way that they refer to it as being Onuma. Just keep that in mind.
Okay, so we might actually, Eli, need to put a couple of image or video links in the description of this video for our viewers' reference, because there is actually a place in Japan called Onuma. I think it's classified as a quasi-national park, which is a little bit strange in English. There's some technicality with the litigation, something with the ownership of the land, where it's not a completely national park, it's just a quasi-national park. I'm not familiar with the details, but it's entirely possible that this place was an influence, or a potential influence, behind the area from which the Great Swamp Pyromancers originate. And Laurentius describes the place as teeming with life, gives sort of a very general overview, not even an overview, really just a sentence or two of what the Great Swamp is like. But maybe we can, I'll provide you those links, Eli, in the chat when we're done recording this, and you can just copy-paste them into the video description.
Yeah. I found some of my own where it's just kind of it's a pretty serene area. It kind of reminds me a lot of a lake area around here. But I'll briefly say I'm fighting the Centipede Demon now, or fighting so much as he's standing in lava and shooting his stupid little arm attack out that he loves to do.
God, I hate that.
But you have to go over to this tiny little island. This is not a good boss fight. It's way too enamored with trying to just make it as irritating as possible. But you can cut off his tail multiple times, and I think you actually found out that you can getting to do this like 6 times in a row, and I think that's the maximum. Or maybe there's someone else that I'm thinking of. Whoop!
You can cut off multiple parts of his body.
Oh, more than just the tail? I didn't know that.
You can cut off his tail. You can cut off, I think, both hands, and each time you cut one off, it'll become its own separate enemy and wander around on its own. And one of them, I think just the first one that you cut off, regardless of which one it is, when you kill it, it will drop the ring mid-battle, and then you can put the ring on and walk out into the lava and just light him up.
Yeah, I should have been aware of that, because the thing I actually cut off was indeed one of his arms. I was wondering how come he didn't drop the ring. But he is dead now. Humanity, Homeward Bone, and a single Sunlight Medal, thanks Solaire. And did it not drop the ring? Maybe it got added into my inventory without me realizing it.
Yeah, it's probably already there, because if you don't cut off one of its limbs, then you'll get it just at the end of the battle.
But go on about Onuma.
Well, there wasn't too much more, but the idea being, I'm trying to remember what prefecture the park is in. I don't remember off the top of my head. I guess it doesn't matter. The video has all that information anyway, so we'll link that in the description.
But the general idea is that Onuma is it's just a straight-up real place. It's like me saying
it exists.
Laurentius is a shaman of Lake Michigan or something. It's that strange. And but it is fitting because
that's an interesting idea.
Onuma itself is actually an extinct volcano, as I remember, and right now it is very much so a swampland. So it used to be a place of great fire and catastrophe and whatnot, which is, I imagine, what Miyazaki was really going for.
Yeah,
and,
the volcano overlooks the national park. The park itself is, it's not technically a swamp. It's
kind of swampy, though.
It's
reminds me a
swampy
lot.
land. It's an interconnected series of small bodies of water that somebody...
It's not like a stereotypical Louisiana swamp or anything like that.
Oh, no, it's nothing like the bayou. Nothing like where Peeve or Marcus live. Marcus doesn't actually live in the bayou, but...
No, he does now.
Yeah, as far as our canon is concerned, the Souls community, yeah, Marcus now lives in the Louisiana bayou.
Down there with Remy and all the other X-Men.
Yeah, but... no, the Mount Onuma overlooks the park, and there's some video out there and a number of really beautiful images of the volcano as seen from across the lake at Onuma National Park. And while the park itself is not a swamp, again, it's just interconnected bodies of water, or maybe one large one, but there are a bunch of islands in it, and somebody has gone and built bridges over them. They now run boat tours through the waterways. But very much the sort of place that you could imagine people like Laurentius coming from. And certainly with the volcano being nearby, the implication of fire being tied to it is very believable.
Right. And that's just the gist of Onuma. That he was trying to convey this idea that it is both associated with long-lost fire techniques, the dead extinct volcano, and at the same time associated with it being this great swampy kind of area. Not really swamp exactly, but you get the idea. So whenever you're thinking about the Great Swamp, I guess the best way to do it is to look at videos of Onuma itself, and that's basically what you would be looking at. If it was actually depicted in the game, that's what the Great Swamp would actually be. And related to this is...
Jujutsu?
Yes. This is a whole big thing we're going to be going into. But you'll notice that I said shaman. And some people translate it as... There's multiple different ways, but some people translate this word, jujutsu shi, as meaning either shaman or witch doctor, or there's various other translations that show up in all sorts of animes. And this is going to be a big mouthful, so I'm going to say that for a brief second because I want to read the description of the orange charred ring that we just picked up, so I can go back and collect the items that I skipped before, and then I can go back down and take care of the hidden path. So let's read this first. Orange charred ring. An orange ring enchanted by a witch. So, just enchanted by a witch. Reduces lava damage. It is kind of unusual. This does kind of straight up just tell you that this happened after the events of the Beta Chaos. But since his sores were inflamed by lava from birth, and this is the really strange thing, his sores were inflamed by lava from birth. This seems to indicate that he was born after the Bit of Chaos incidents or something happened to this person, and that turned him into what he is today, and that's considered to be his birth. Who knows? His witch sisters gave him this special ring. But fool that he is, he readily dropped it, and from that spot a terrible Centipede Demon was born. Right on top of the church bell tower.
Right, exactly. I have a feeling they probably read...
Yeah, the lore of this obviously was written much later on. But that has a number of really weird implications. One being, his sores were inflamed by lava from birth, so he was born this way, which is really bizarre. His sisters gave him this special ring. He is a sister of the witches, even though none of the other witches that we've ever seen has been male. And fool that he is, so apparently he's an idiot. He's just a half-wit, which, if he's a big monster thing, then maybe that makes sense. He rarely dropped it, and from that spot a terrible Centipede Demon's born. Why would a Centipede Demon be born from the ring dropping into lava? Stop worrying about it. That's the answer.
Because reasons.
Okay, so I'm going to equip this, or skip out of the menu because I'm an idiot. Where the hell is it? I'm going to equip this and go back, and in the meantime... Franz here is going to explain, or do his best to explain, Jujutsu Shi, which is the word for pyromancers in the original translation of Dark Souls. And they practice Jujutsu, or pyromancy, is how it's translated in English. And that can mean all sorts of different things, and he's going to explain exactly like what the characters that compose pyromancy mean, which can mean either... What the hell was it? Soft art or chaos art, or not chaos art.
There's a bit of
and all sorts of other things.
the kanji used for pyromancy are very specific. But yeah, Eli and I have been batting this back and forth for quite some time and trying our very best to make sense of why the choice to use these particular kanji was made. The term pyromancy in Japanese, as it's used in Dark Souls 1, is composed of the kanji noroi, which means curses, and the kanji jutsu, which means art. That's pyromancy. Pyromancers themselves, the people who use the art, are referred to in the game terminology as jujutsu shi. So those same first two kanji, and then the kanji that refers to a person in the context of somebody who uses a particular art, in this case. So the idea seems to be that pyromancy, as far as the developers are concerned, is not so much the art of fire as it is the art of curses. Jujutsu is the reading of the art for pyromancy. Now, obviously, this creates some ambiguity when it's spoken and you don't have the written kanji to go by, because when most of us hear the word jujutsu, we think of the martial art practiced in many countries around Asia, not just Japan, that primarily involves techniques of throwing opponents. But that art...
Just to briefly explain that, there's multiple ways of, there's multiple kinds of jujutsu as far as context goes. And one of them is a martial art where it's just like, ninjutsu or whatever else. And the other one is, they'll refer to jujutsu as being like a magic sort of thing. Sorry,
yeah, we're getting, that's okay. We're getting into the technicalities of the Japanese language, and I'm not sure that I want to get way too technical with everybody, because I doubt too many of your viewers probably are interested in hearing me ramble about that. But the nitty-gritty of it is, words in Japanese that sound the same can have completely different meanings depending upon what kanji, what symbols are used to spell them. Kanji, of course, being symbols borrowed from the Chinese alphabet. Hiragana and katakana are the two alphabets native to Japan, but that's an entirely different subject. The point here is, jujutsu, in the context of the martial art, is written with the kanji for soft, which is yawara, and the kanji for art. So, jujutsu, the martial art, is literally a soft art, an art of handling your opponent softly, as it were, throwing them and using their own momentum to simply disable them and knock them off balance, rather than breaking their neck or their spine. Whereas jujutsu, in the context of Dark Souls, although it sounds the same, it's pronounced the same, the first kanji with which it is spelled is completely different and has a different meaning. And so, in the context of Dark Souls 1, jujutsu refers to the art of curses. Now, this is where Eli and I have obviously come up against a barrier of logic, because pyromancy in the game does not seem to be related at all to using curses. It's obviously just the art of manipulating fire. So, what were the devs thinking? I'm not sure. Why was curse art in Japanese translated into pyromancy in English when they seem to imply two completely different things? We're not sure, to be honest.
Now, I have mentioned this in the past in regards to the whole idea of cursing and stuff in this game is so strange, and how it's related to like the process of turning to stone and all these other things. So in that sense, it is kind of provocative that pyromancy could in some ways be related to the art of using curses, but I kind of get the impression is more just Miyazaki was playing with it, and he just liked the idea of it being spelled. I don't know enough about Japanese and how characters work, but I kind of do get that impression that he just liked that, and that was it. That was the end of it.
Well, you might be right about that. One of the things that President Miyazaki has said in the past is that he loves using complex kanji that are not often used even by native speakers of Japanese. And that is abundantly apparent in some of the item descriptions of items in Japanese in the Souls series at large, in Bloodborne, in the Souls games proper. But one of the things that may be going on here, and I'm going to be the first to admit, my grasp of Japanese is very rudimentary. and I am not natively fluent in the language, nor even really conversationally fluent, and it is entirely possible that there is some connotation to the term jujutsu in the context of curse art in Japanese that is not literal and thus not immediately apparent just by translating the word or the phrase literally. So there might be some implied or understood meaning to that phrase that I'm just not aware of and am completely missing. So that's a possibility as well. And if that's the case, some of our viewers who are more familiar with it than I am, I'm sure will chime in on the matter. But okay, I don't know personally.
There is another line of thought in regards to this, but I wanted to point out, as people were seeing in the video, I got to the passage and it was still closed. And I was pretty sure that if you open it once and it just stays open, but maybe I have to be part of the Covenant, so I'm running back here to rejoin the Chaos Covenant to try to get it back open.
You have to not only be... well, I don't remember now that you mention it. I don't remember if it just goes on your Covenant level, but when you leave the Covenant in this game, your Covenant level gets cut in half. Yeah, that's going to be a problem. So we're going to see if this works correctly. If it doesn't, we're going to have a problem. Because I'll have to do a big cut. Well, you could just cheat engine yourself up to level 2 in the Covenant.
Oh, shit. Pyromancy, Great Chaos Fireball.
Well,
that's weird.
That means that
I might have rolled back at some point.
Yeah, that means you've got to trade in at least 25 more, maybe 30. I think you get Great Chaos Fireball immediately, and then Chaos Storm at well, what level?
No,
1?
It says I'm at Chaos Covenant level 3, so I guess I don't have to worry about it. That was really strange.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if it says level 3, you should be fine.
I have no idea what just happened there.
That is bizarre.
All right, that's fine by me. I guess the way is open, but I do need to run down here and grab these other 2 items.
Okay. Well, if you've been messing around with Cheat Engine, that might have been why.
No, actually, this is probably caused by Actually, I think I might have known what it is.
What's that?
I think what happened is I did a rollback, of course, and then I got my Covenant level back up to 3 from donating all those shitty humanities. And then I was afraid of the idea of, because I knew I had to leave the Covenant to show off the other ones, that what I did is I used a save editor to just change my Covenant status from Chaos level 3 to none. So what actually happened is, yeah, now that I'm rejoining it, it's getting confused in saying, well, you're at level 3, we can see that.
Right.
Because I never actually technically left it. Because I wanted to make sure that for the sake of the playthrough, you know, I wouldn't have to worry about the way being closed, in case what just happened actually did happen. Which did happen. So I guess everything worked according to plan.
That's what you get, Eli, you filthy hacker.
Well, actually, I did it perfectly. This is exactly the way that it should have gone. So actually, you should be thanking me. But anyways, in regards to Jujutsu and all this other nonsense, I wanted to point out that I mentioned how it can be translated as being shaman or witch doctor, and you yourself said that you weren't absolutely certain what sort of connotations these carry. And I wanted to point out that often... Huh, that's weird. The Tauros demons aren't back. Shouldn't they have respawned? Huh.
You didn't die or leave the area, or rezone anywhere, did you?
Well, I sat at a bonfire. This is so weird. Anyways, but I wanted to point out, this is something we've talked about, that Japanese culture is not really hard set in native. Like, if they practice Buddhism, it's not going to be the sort of Buddhism that you're going to be seeing in other parts of, like, China or India or whatever. It's going to be a weird sort of combination of that and some Shintoism and all sorts of other things. And things like Jiu-Jitsu can mean all sorts of different things depending on their context. And what I wanted Franz here to do is to elaborate more on how exactly the Japanese integrate other cultures into their own, and integrate concepts and words and things like that, and create a host of mess of things that are very hard to translate. Go!
Well, the first and probably best example that comes to my mind is the multitude of basically minor spirits that are referred to as yokai. And anybody who watches anime or reads manga probably has some level of familiarity with yokai. But from a more... I don't know if it really deserves to be called a technical point of view, but more from the point of view of scholarly examination of the issue. Yokai originated in more, I don't know if ancient times, but hundreds and hundreds of years ago, the idea originated as they were basically minor spirits of things in nature. But in a more modern context, people now in Japan envision yokai as being spirits that can inhabit things like household appliances or furniture. And there's now this sort of contemporary belief that when you throw out an appliance or get rid of a piece of furniture, that the yokai inhabiting it becomes angry at you for throwing it away, and that they go on these parades at night where they all get together and angrily wander around the streets. It's a fascinating system of belief, but all of these things are derived from some form of influence that somebody just saw and imagined, oh hey, that thing probably has a spirit inside it. I wonder what it would look like if it did. And so if you look at pictures of yokai in modern depiction, you'll see things like basically things that look like Pokemon. Rotom is a good example. A refrigerator with a face, or something along those lines. They integrate influences from all around them into the culture. And your comment, Eli, regarding Buddhism and Shintoism, most people in Japan, the majority anyway, obviously everybody practices different religions, and there are some Christians in Japan, there are very few Jews, a very few Muslims. There are people who practice more devout and orthodox forms of the various religions that you find, Buddhism and Shinto included. But the average person on the street, they won't practice a specific religion in particular, but their day-to-day life will incorporate elements from a multitude of different religions, typically primarily Shinto and Buddhism, because those are the primary prevalent religions in Japan, Shinto being the native endemic faith in Japan, and Buddhism obviously having been imported to Japan from China centuries and centuries ago. And one of the fascinating things in Japan is that you'll see both Buddhist temples and Shinto shrines, and people will visit both, in spite of not necessarily really being devout adherents of either religion. So these influences come to affect them really on a widespread basis in their everyday life. And I think your point, Eli, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the same is true with games like the Souls series. President Miyazaki has incorporated, and his design team in general, because he's not the only one who did designs for the games, has incorporated influences from a vast number of different mythos from around the world. Nordic mythology, Greek mythology, we were talking about the Prometheus parallels earlier on, just takes references from wherever he can find them and incorporates them. So what you get is this fascinating sort of amalgamation of influences that individually are identifiable as maybe coming from a specific source, but when kind of mashed together the way they are, they create something a little bit different and interesting.
Oh shit. Solaire's here. I apparently didn't do the sequence correctly.
Oh?
Let's give him a moment.
My very own son. I am the son. I've done it. I have. Yes. I did it. I did. Oh.
Okay, so here we have Solaire, unfortunately.
What happened?
I'm pretty sure I did the sequence correctly. I didn't go visit Solaire. I beat the Centipede Demon, and that was it. Maybe I actually have to open the way forward before we actually beat the Centipede Demon, and that's what actually happened. Maybe that's the case. But anyways, he's here. It's a good thing I thought to do that save, so I can now roll back and show you what happens when he doesn't do this. So we don't have to worry too much about this.
So you got the path of progression where he's now going to go hollow?
Yeah.
Ah.
Well, he's not going to go hollow. This is one of the things I wanted to talk about. He definitely is not hollow. The problem with him is that he's gone batshit insane.
Well, I think what he's going through is the beginning stages of hollowing. We don't see him completely as a husk like the other hollows are, but we've talked before, I think, about how people tend to go hollow when they lose their will to live and when they either fulfill their goal or realize that they have no more reason to pursue it. And at the point that you encounter him, he has just come to that realization, so I presume, anyway, the hollowing process has not fully progressed.
See, I actually disagree. I think he never does go hollow, and he doesn't really start hollowing. I think he's lost his mind, is what has happened.
Well,
That's the thing that I've always preferred to think.
Some people postulate that the sunlight maggot is controlling his mind, and there certainly may be some validity to that as well. You may well not be wrong, but that's just one of the things that we're never given enough information to be able to say for sure. This is just my interpretation from what I see, but, you know, you could be right too.
But I want to talk a lot about Solaire, actually. I wanted to, let's say, hold on. All these little maggot creatures that we've been seeing, and Franz obviously referred to them as being sunlit maggots. And in the original Japanese, I looked this up, they're referred to as being basically solar insects, I think is how it's actually described as being. And the word they use for insect here, it used to be a character that used to be used for snakes. And it seems, whenever I googled it, it brought up a bunch of pictures of caterpillars. So there does seem to be some sort of association with it being creepy, crawly things that are sort of snake-like, I guess, in some ways.
Out of curiosity, Eli, what is the word? Is it mushi?
I don't know offhand. If I wrote it down at all, it would still be in that thing I sent you.
I'll take a look.
No, I didn't have it written down, damn it.
It doesn't look like you did.
Yeah, that's one of the problems with doing these things like this. But in regards to Solaire, this is more to the point anyways. I talked to him in the previous part, and I didn't talk much about my interpretation of his dialogue. But he did say that he was worried about people thinking of him as being a fool. Because he was really worried about finding his own son. In regards to his own son, I've talked about this before in my Tri-Fusion video. I went into a lot of depth about his character and what exactly he's looking for. But the general idea is that what we are supposed to do as players is wonder ourselves, what is he talking about when he talks about his own son? And the whole point is that it's something that we cannot help him with. Even though he is someone that is helping us, even, you know, with a Centipede Demon. Like the very last thing that he does to help us with, as far as him going hollow. Even to that point, he was still someone that was very concerned about fellowship, you know, helping other people. And in regards to helping him try to find his own son, we can't help him because we have no clue what he's even talking about. And,
well, neither
Patches,
does he.
Yeah, Patches even refers to him as being like an idiot. Like, he thinks he's just crazy. Because he's looking for his own son. What the hell does that even mean? And I have my own opinions about what exactly it is that Solaire is looking for in life. But maybe, Franz, you can give a little bit of insight yourself.
Well, this raises another, as always, really unanswerable question of what does Solaire consider to be his own son? And as I said, I don't think he really even knows. I think he's chasing a concept that he himself has not really thought about. Is the sun something that you can take and hold in your own hand? Is it something literal, or is it something figurative? Is it an epiphany? Is it something spiritual? Solaire himself doesn't seem to have any clue what exactly it is, or whether he would even know what it was if he did find it. I kind of get the impression he's just completely flying by the seat of his pants and figuring if he finds something that looks like a sun, well, fuck it, that's his son. And that really does seem to be the case with him finding the sunlight maggot. If you follow the path of story progression that you are now going to be following and demonstrating for everybody, you'll see that he actually seems to be, even in his insanity, seems to be content. And this is a point that President Miyazaki has brought up in the more distant past, where he said in an interview that he felt that this ending is actually the happy ending for Solaire, because even though he ends up dying in a rather tragic fashion, he sort of, in some way, finds something akin to what he thought he was looking for in the first place. And Miyazaki further goes on to say that should Solaire survive this and the other progression path happens, Solaire then goes back and links the fire in his own world, and in that way maybe sort of finds a son in some sense.
Yeah, he kind of said that jokingly, too, I'll give in context. I think they even transcribe it as him laughing in the process of saying it. So he's kind of just internally thinking about it as far as his own headcanon goes. To me, this has never really seemed like a happy ending for him. To me, this has seemed more like he is looking for something. He's looking for his own son. He's looking for something. And of course, like you said, he doesn't really actually know what that is exactly. Although with him, I think internally, even though he can't, if you asked him, he probably couldn't even really describe it. He does seem to have an idea of what that is. In the sense of, in some of his earlier dialogue, he ascribes things like the sun itself.
Gross incandescence, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He ascribes a lot of feelings and emotions and just ways of life to this philosophy that he adheres to.
Like, but all very nebulous and not very concrete or solid.
Right. And with him, he seems to be... I think the core thing with him is he's looking for his own sun. He is a servant of the sun, which, ironically, does not really even exist anymore. In Orlando, anyways. And, he's trying to find his own sun. So it seems to be like, yeah, he realizes he's a servant of the sun. He's serving all of its goals of fellowship and, service to the gods and so on. But he's looking for something that's more personalized to him. He's looking for his own motivations. So what exactly that means, it's not really clear, but it seems like maybe he feels like he doesn't have his own personality, or he feels like he is not his own man.
Or that there's something missing. I mean, he says his actual infamous line is, "If only I could be so grossly incandescent." So he seems to be implying that he's trying to achieve maybe a state of being above and beyond what he currently is.
Right. And of course we can all read really far into this, but to me, my personal interpretation of Solaire is that he sort of embodies sort of the growth into adulthood that a lot of us have. Not necessarily adulthood, but just adults worry about this sort of thing a lot. This idea of who I am, what is it that I do, what makes me me, why do I matter in the world? And with Solaire, I kind of envision that as being what his goal is that he can't really find his own path. He is in service to the gods, or he's at least, you know, he's doing his own thing in regards to the covenant of the sun. But he can't really figure out who he is and what he needs to do. And whenever he's searching through Anor Londo and he's searching through Blighttown and stuff for this potentially physical object, what he's actually looking for is his own meaning in life. And he can't really find it. And what's interesting to me is that whenever people hollow out, it's because they are losing that meaning in life. So what's most unusual about him is that he doesn't really ever seem to hollow out exactly. Like, I'm looking at him right now. I haven't bothered to kill him yet. And, he's obviously not hollow. Like, he's still in his human form. He hasn't hollowed out at all. So that's kind of the reason why I kind of more adhere to the idea that he is not hollowing out. Because it does seem to me it gives more weight to his struggle. And it makes it a little bit more... I don't know. It just makes it more complicated. Because if he is still focused on his goals in life, then he wouldn't have hollowed out by now. But at the same time, his overarching goal is that he doesn't have what he thinks that he actually has. So, to me, it seems like his entire story is this arc of him trying to bring out an internal sun that's inside of his body, and the whole concept of a sun is just that inner actualization that we all go through in life. If I'm trying to read into it as hard as possible, which I obviously am. But let's go ahead and get him killed, I guess. It's over.
That was fast. What'd you do, shove him off the edge?
My sun, it's setting.
Dark.
Dark. So dark.
So dark.
So whenever you kill him, he refers to it as his sun is setting. So I guess you can read it into it, his final words as being, sun may be equivalent to just his life, you know.
Or it may just be a very blunt reference to, hey, look, the fire and dark are kind of a story thing.
Yeah, and that's kind of, I guess, more to that's the blunt edge of it. The blunt edge of it. That,
it's a good way to put it.
the whole idea with Solaire is that he's kind of... He got popular for a reason. I mean, it's easy to hate Solaire because praise the sun, blah, 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 all the stupid Dark Souls 2 shit. But he is
before
a very...
that was a thing, you know?
Yeah, before all that, he got popular for a reason. And he is a very good character, and he embodies the entire story of Dark Souls itself, this division of darkness and light, and what both of those mean. And with Solaire, it's like it's a mixture of both. He can't really make up his mind. He doesn't really understand what it means, and that's what his search is. So we kill him, and we get rid of the sunlit maggot that he is... People say he was controlling his mind, but we can pick it up and we can wear it ourselves, so that doesn't really make any sense to me. And it's obviously not shaped like a bug. Yeah, we're immune to everything. That's too easy, though. But anyways, that's the gist of it. Let's see what he dropped for us. 2 humanity, which is kind of weird. He drops 2 humanity. Strange. And he drops Sunlit Straight Sword. Oh, this is going to be so... Oh my gosh. Sunlit... Remember all these for me. Sunlit Straight Sword, Sunlight Shield, Sunlight Talisman, all of his armor. So he was carrying around a load of shit. Alright, first let's...
Yeah, but he was wearing all of it, so it's not like he was carrying it all around in a backpack.
Yeah, but it's just... Usually they divide everything up amongst different drops, and you can buy one here and so on. It's odd to have it all in one place. Anyways. Sunlight Shields. Shield of Solaire of Astora, Knight of Sunlight. Decorated with a holy symbol, which is the smiling raisin... What's that... What's that raisin brand that uses this? It's like that. Yeah, there's a brand of raisins that has this. It almost looks exactly like this, I think. Anyway, sorry. Decorated with a holy symbol, but Solaire illustrated it himself. That is so cute.
Yep.
Solaire drew it himself. That's pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
But it's weird. It's decorated with a holy symbol, so it apparently isn't a pre-existing thing. So it almost sort of implies that Solaire wasn't actually a part of whatever, whatever a practice is associated with this holy symbol. Because if he was, it would be legitimate. Or else he just didn't have any power to make the symbol. Because you look at the descriptions of other shields... Well, you think that if he joined this real covenant or whatever, then they would have given him a shield that already had it on there. So if he's the one drawing it, it seems to imply that there was no one to draw it for him.
Well, if he's also a self-declared adherent of the Lord of Sunlight, which is what...
Yeah, that's what I mean.
But, I mean, when you join the what do you call it, the Sunbros Covenant, they don't just hand you a set of your own equipment. You use what you have on you. My guess is Solaire just improvised some stuff. The armor that he's wearing also, I think the description of it might say something like, the symbol on it is something that he drew himself. Clearly, Solaire is not a cleric. He doesn't have any actual ability to manipulate arcane powers. You look at the description of something like Sanctus. Sanctus actually had a legitimate blessing, and at some point in its existence, had some power. Yeah, Solaire's shield, he's no cleric, he's no mage, he just drew shit on it because, hey, that's the holy symbol, but I'll be damned if I know how to give it a blessing, you know?
But the most odd thing about it is that it refers to it as being a holy symbol. Otherwise, it would just say it has something that Solaire illustrated on, himself. And
well, it
wouldn't reference it as being a holy symbol at all. So either it's a pre-existing symbol that comes from somewhere else, or the game is just saying, this is his idea of a holy symbol.
It might be. There's no way for us to ever know that, but in the event that it does turn out to be, like, supposing it is a holy symbol from elsewhere, probably it would have taken someone who actually was a cleric drawing that same symbol on his shield in order to actually give it any power. Obviously, the implication behind Solaire's equipment's description, all of it, is that, yeah, he kept his equipment in really good shape. It was real high-quality stuff, but this dude didn't have any special powers. He was just really, really strong.
Well, we'll get to that in a second, but I just wanted to make sure I pointed out that it's kind of odd that it's an actual holy symbol. So maybe it's something that the game is just saying, Solaire thought it was holy. Or maybe it's the other way around and actually was something, like this actually is the symbol of, the long-lost son of Lord Gwyn or something. Who knows? Just who the fuck knows? That's the gist of it. Okay, there's still more to come in regards to all the shit that he dropped. Sunlight Talisman, medium for casting Miracles of the Gods. And it's odd, he actually ran out of spears. He was throwing them at me, and he only threw like 4 or 5, and then he just stopped. I don't know.
Huh.
The talisman of Solaire of Astora, the Knight of Sunlight, is decorated with a holy symbol, once again. Even though I can't really see it. But it does have a yellow and red marking on it, I guess.
It's the same symbol, I think. It's the image of the smiling sun.
Well, it doesn't even have that on it. It just looks like a... You know those little ghost suckers that you can make where you put like a napkin on a sucker and put a rubber band on it?
Yep. Yeah.
It kind of looks like one of those, except on the top has like a yellow wrapper around where the sucker would be, and there's a single like little red bloody stripe coming down the side of it. So there's no sun on it at all. Again, is decorated with a holy symbol illustrated by Solaire himself. He is quite the artist. This talisman is a projection of Solaire's upstanding, unwavering faith. So again, this is just stuff this is the gist of it, is that Solaire is a self-made man. Like, everything about his faith, everything about his own power, everything, he realized it himself. It's not from an external source.
Yeah, which is fascinating, considering that every other talisman in the game seems to imply that when you use it, you're drawing on the power of the gods. But Solaire's talisman, when he uses it, it's not even the power of the gods, it's just his own ridiculously high, maybe blind faith. Which...
Right, that's what I like so much about Solaire, is that he's looking for this inner actualization, but the thing about it is that he had it the entire time. Like, he's way better off than anyone else in the world. Like, he is just insanely powerful. And it's all because of him. It's not because of the gods or anything else. He did it. And he's looking for it, and he doesn't realize that he's already found it. Anyways.
Yep, there's some irony there.
Sunlight Straightsword. The standard longsword belonging to Solaire of Astora is of high quality, is well forged, and has been kept in good repair. He didn't make it, apparently. Easy to use and dependable, but unlikely to live up to its grandiose name. Which apparently the player gives, because I doubt it was written on it, so... I guess
or Solaire gave it, because Solaire
did he tell you its name while he was dying? It's one of those things where...
it's one of those things where I think it may be implied that any of the equipment you get from him, its names all are related to sunlight, because Solaire...
Well, this is one of those things people have asked me before, and I don't have really an explanation for it.
Well, there isn't one.
No, it's all the item descriptions. Are the things that all the item descriptions, are these things that your character knows, or are they things that you're being told, or is it something that's formed by the narration and it's never really clear because really it's just Miyazaki dropping hints.
I really feel like that's just something that's meant for the reader to look at and for the reader to know, and not necessarily something that the player character in the canon of the world would ever even be able to figure out. I mean,
I'm sure that the player character knows quite a few things. Like, if they're from Astora, obviously they would know about Astora and so on. They would recognize Astoran armor and blah, blah, blah. But they don't know everything, especially all about these crazy demons and whatnot.
Yeah.
Astora's high quality. But it doesn't say anything in regards to the straight sword as being something that he made, so... Apparently,
it could easily have been something that he picked up from a blacksmith who was really good at his craft, and, Solaire obviously knew how to maintain it, and just kept it in really good working order.
Right, and that's what I was trying to get to. It's just the idea that this is like the one thing that he was carrying around, I guess in addition to his armor, which I'm about to look at. It's not something that he made, and it's something that he has not really tailored himself. So maybe it's something that is from Astora, or maybe it's just something he picked up along the way. It doesn't say either way. Alright, now let's take a look at his armor, if I can find it. With the amazing inventory system in Dark Souls. Alright. Iron Helm, is it different? Yes. Alright, I'll look at the armor. Armor of Solaire of Astora, Knight of Sunlight. The large holy symbol of the sun, while powerless, again, was painted by Solaire himself. There's something so adorable about this, that he's painting his own little things and going, I'm the Knight of the Sunlight, and he runs off.
He's not really appreciably different from people who make their own cosplay costumes when you think about it.
No, except he's like a huge hulking powerhouse that can throw lightning bolts at people.
Right, and his cosplay is functional, yeah.
And the helm says, of high quality but lacking any particular powers. Solaire's incredible prowess must have come from rigorous training alone, for his equipment exhibits no special traits.
Like I said, he spent tons of time at the gym, man.
But he was fucking crazy strong. That's the gist of his character.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder how much time you have to spend at the gym in order to learn how to throw lightning. I'd like to know what that exercise routine requires.
Oh, come here, you stupid fucking crystal lizard. I'm gonna get you. Yes, I got you.
Get him! Get him, Eli!
Two twinkling tight light. It's in a red tight night chunk. You won't believe how long I stood in that one place talking about Solaire. But in a way, I feel like I haven't really said enough about Solaire in some ways. Like, there's more that I could say about his characterization, but I would have to sit down and think about it. But the gist of it is, if you want to hear more about Solaire and what I think about him, just go to my final Tri-Fusion video when I was fusing together armor sets from the Soul series. And I talk a lot more about it there, and it probably makes a little bit more cohesive sense. But I really like Solaire, and it's not because of stupid memes of him praising the sun. It's just because he is a good character. And that's the end of it. Alright, what was it? Oh, Sunlit Maggot. I just got through picking this up. Sunlit Maggot. It is unusual that he's wearing it, but you can also kill it, and it's still right there. And you can pick it up and wear it yourself. Sunlit Maggot. Where the hell is it? I hate looking for this thing. Fill time for me while I look at this thing. Just start mumbling a song or something. Oh, it's in... Okay, I know why. Okay, here it is. Never mind. I was looking at the weapons.
Thanks for saving me from that.
Because you had nothing. Sunlight Maggots. A loathsome parasite that inhabits Los Izelith. It is completely immobile. No, it isn't. We saw it jumping around.
The hell it is. Yeah, what? We had to chase those damn things.
Yet still lives. So it's talking about the mask itself. So you'd stick a knife in this thing, and even as a mask, it is completely immobile. In other words, it can't get away, yet still lives. So you can put this on your head. When worn on the head, it emanates blinding light, which is why it is known as a sunlight maggot. So that's the gist of that. There's really nothing to say about that, other than it's... With all these bug things down here, this is the kind of the ongoing theme with the Izelith area. Everything is kind of just... Everything is about bugs. Except for Taurus demons and Capra demons. Just ignore those. Those are rat bulls. Stop thinking about it. But it is sort of loosely associated with the maggots, the centipede things that we've been seeing earlier. So I guess there is some sort of loose association with that. I guess. And as we'll see later with the Bed of Chaos itself, it also is sort of a writhing little insect thing. So I guess there is that association as well. As far as the internal logic of how all that works, I don't know. And as we see down here, as I pass over the bridge into Los Izelith itself, bunch of dragon butt creatures. Oh lord, there's so much to talk about.
I hate those things.
But this is the alternate area that I should have apparently gone in if Solaire was going to go crazy anyways. I'll have to roll back my save and I'll roll back my save off camera and then I'll worry about summoning him later on. But I'll go down to this area, probably in the next part. It's not enough time to worry about it now. I may not even be able to get the Bed of Chaos out of the way. But I just wanted to point out that these are giant dragon asses. The original Japanese description, I didn't write this down, but it is sort of literally lower half of a dragon is their name. I think it is. And I just wanted to point out, why would the lower halves of dragons be here?
Because
Why?
FromSoft couldn't afford the upper halves.
Exactly.
They were over budget.
It's probably just like an existing thing that they had, so they just copy-pasted them all over the place. You can see them all over the place. It's such a nightmare having to deal with this shit. There's a few generic items down here. I think the only thing down there is just souls, so it's not really that important that I go down there and show that off. But
There
there's
is
a bonfire
down there. Yeah.
That's pretty much it. That's the only thing of real note down here. Other than Solaire being down here. That's another thing I'll have to show in the next part. I'll have to walk up and talk to Solaire and have him give his dialogue there. And then I'll have to roll back again and then do that all over again. But I wanted to just point out that the only way that a dragon's butt should be here is if they just had a big supply of dragons stored down here before the Bed of Chaos shit started happening. Or the other explanation is that somehow, whenever the Bed of Chaos shit started happening, that somehow that was not enough to form a complete dragon. And somehow that is insinuating that the first flame itself is correlated to the dragons somehow. That somehow the dragons were formed from it, but there's no explanation as to how. To me, I think it's just
reanimated the dragons' butts.
I guess, but that also doesn't make any sense.
None of this makes any sense, Eli.
No.
We're trying too hard.
The latter half of Dark Souls, you can tell, is really just not finished, because none of... Like, I know that you're supposed to fill in the blanks and stuff, and that's one of the problems with Miyazaki sometimes, is that sometimes he'll leave contradicting information that you can find one thing and say, oh, then this is true of the world, and that is absolutely true, but then something else will show up and it absolutely contradicts it in every single way. And that's even in Bloodborne. That even has some problems there.
Mm.
But anyways, that's a whole other subject. Just the gist of it is that don't worry about it. And I do know that this guy, this Titanite Demon, does respawn. God damn. But I'm probably not going to bother with him because he's such an asshole. He does respawn, and this is the one place that you can get...
Well, you don't need the catch pole, do you?
No, well, I already have one, but this is the one place that you can get the respawning Demon Titanite, if you want it. If you want to upgrade weapons the hard way, then that's how you do it. You come farm this one guy over and over again. And once you kill him once, you pick up maybe a drop, or maybe not. Then homeward bone back to something, run back here, and kill him all over again. It is really fucking shitty.
It's still better than trying to get blood rocks in Bloodborne.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely is. What about, oh, what the hell are they in Demon Souls? The worst one.
Bladestone? Pure Bladestone?
Yeah, those are the ones. Those are also really terrible.
Yeah. Well, that's really terrible, but you only need one of them, and you can still get a Pure Bladestone probably in less time than it takes to open up all of the all the freaking Chalice dungeons you need to go through just to be able to even have a chance of finding blood rocks in Bloodborne.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I really, really want to complain about that. Like, a lot. But unfortunately, I don't think we really have time. Because this episode is now 2 hours long.
We have to restrain ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, this episode's 2 hours long. I've now gotten to the actual Izelith area proper. I've decided I'm going to just cut off here.
Are you going to cut this into 2 parts, or just leave it as one?
No, I'm going to leave this as one part. Fuck it.
Okay.
Fuck it. I've never noticed this before.
What?
There are... Did you know this? Like, if you look up at the actual temple, like where the Bed of Chaos is, from the entrance, I thought it was weird. I thought my perspective was really off. But there's 2 of those statues, except they are gigantic, and they're alive. They are just living, gigantic versions of the smaller statue enemies that you fight in this area. I've never noticed them before.
Really? You didn't see that?
No, I've never seen that before, because usually I just run past and start killing things.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. They're not something that you'd really pay much attention to unless you were just wandering around staring at things, but hey, here you are wandering around staring at things.
Yeah, there's also, I think from, like, right here at the bridge, you can look down... No, it's not at the bridge. There's some place where you can look down and you can see, like, very heavily untextured areas. Like, on the very side where you're not supposed to be looking. It looks really bad. But basically, like I was saying, this area just was never really finished. That's why there's so many copy-pasted enemies and shit going on here. So we're going to end here.
They came right out and admitted that in an interview, I think. They said that they didn't have time or something along those lines.
You can really... people say that the game goes downhill after Ornstein and Smoke. I don't think it's that bad, but it is obvious that the latter half is not anywhere near as good.
Well, it sure as hell goes downhill when you get to Izelith. I won't disagree with that.
That's the reason why I was saving it for you, so you could talk all about it.
Sure, throw that at me. Well, hopefully I helped.
But there's a couple more things I wanted to talk about while you're here, just to get it out of the way.
Sure.
I guess I'll just go ahead and point out what's going to happen whenever we go down here. But we're going to go up here, fight like a weird multi-eyed thing that doesn't make any sense. Stop worrying about it. Sigmire is going to be down here as well. We're going to have to deal with him, that's mainly the reason why I'm cutting off here, because it's just going to take too much time. And then we're going to go up here, and there's going to be one of the remaining witches of one of the daughters of Quelana, the Witch of Izelith. She's going to be up here. She is one of 3 different ones of the witches that we actually see that has not been transformed. She is one that we're going to be fighting up there. The second is obviously Quelana, who is down there doing her little vision quest or whatever the fuck she's doing. And the third is the corpse of the one that we plucked the robes off of, which I never looked at. That the Ceaseless Discharge, the brother of the witches, was actually so concerned about. And also we'll be fighting Kirk one last time, and we'll be talking more about Kirk then. Goldham Black Hood, here we go. And then after that we'll be fighting the Witch of, the Bed of Chaos itself. But I wanted to point out that Lost Izelith itself, its Japanese name is Kontando Haito if I can pronounce this, Izarisu, which is just their name for Izelith. Izarisu, big mouthful of that.
Oh, you got it, not bad.
And Bed of Chaos is Kontando Nedoko? I don't know how to say that, but I wanted to, even though you're going to disagree with this, I thought it was adorable that that name basically means nursery planter of chaos, because it uses the same word that is used for little nursery planters that you use in gardens. Like, that's the idea of it. It's a bed that you put down to grow seeds out of. That's what that word is trying to imply.
Well, we hardly need to explain this, but obviously that's a figurative meaning, you know?
Yeah, it's just one of Miyazaki-isms, I guess. But do you have anything to add in regards to Lost Izelith's name, which is basically translates as being Derelict Chaos Capital Izelith, and you were mentioning the Haito sort of portmanteau inside of this, and Bed of Chaos probably doesn't need any actual explanation.
No, the Bed of Chaos doesn't, because obviously the connotation there being figurative is, I think, pretty self-explanatory. It is the bed of life from which the demons arose. That's explained in the game already. As for the Japanese name of Lost Izelith, the term Haito, in particular, it has the connotations of expressing a ruined capital city, a capital city that has sort of decayed, been reduced to ruins over the ages. And you mentioned Angkor Wat. We may have to include some resources, links or something to pictures, or maybe the Wikipedia article if there is one. There's got to be one on Angkor Wat. But the idea of a ruined capital, I think, is even less figurative, not really figurative at all, than the Bed of Chaos, because that's really what it is. Izelith, we're not really given any indication of how big the civilization of Izelith was. It seems to have been somewhere underground, so it could be way bigger than the area that we get to see and explore. And we know that the witch was ruler of it, but that it's been abandoned for... this is the interesting bit. Quelana does provide a time frame. She mentions of her mother that 1,000 years of punishment were enough. So, if you take that literally, you can then get the sense that Izelith has been in ruins for 1,000 years, for a really, really freaking long time.
And it has been stated before that Lord Gwyn, you know, what he did when he rekindled the bonfire was 1,000 years ago. And I can't remember what NPC said that, but I do remember that as well.
Which places it at around the same time, probably a little bit before the Witch of Izelith attempted her little stunt that just blew up in her face, literally.
Right.
So, you know, we have the time frame indicating that Izelith, yeah, the connotation of the Japanese name for the place denoting a ruined capital city. Yeah, what more can we say? It's appropriate.
Yep. So that's basically, that's where I got the translation of it being a capital. It actually said, I think Google translates as metropolis is what it actually tries to translate it as being, but I had the common sense to use Wiktionary and started looking at it and thought, no, it's trying to imply that it's a capital, is what it's trying to do.
Yeah, I suspect that the reason it gives you the metropolitan translation of it is that one of those kanji, probably the second one, is used, I'm sure, or I'm guessing, in probably a modern term or phrase in Japanese that refers to some metropolitan zone or a capital. So I suspect that's probably why Google Translate returns that result.
Yeah. You know what? Fuck it, let's just go ahead and beat the Bed of Chaos because I'm already here. And I'll do the item pickup shit for later. But I wanted to briefly point out there's a little statue guy right here. One of the statues. He is moving, but you can't actually hurt him. So this does seem to imply that maybe these things used to be statues. Why would they make these horrible statues all over the place? And somehow they are waking up and turning alive or something. I don't know. Again, just stop worrying about it. It's just... I guess that was their flimsy way of just trying to create some sort of context. But here we have, you can see up here the daughter that I was talking about. And I really don't feel like talking over fighting both her and Kirk at the same time, so let's shoot her in the face.
Yeah, that's a great solution.
Let's shoot her in the face, and she walks her cute little posterior down here. Starts chucking fireballs at us like a fool! Oh, she's going to use a Firestorm. Or Chaos Firestorm, actually, I wanted to. She uses actual Chaos Pyromancies. And here comes Dark Knight Kirk. She dies. Let's go ahead and heal up as Dark Kirk waddles this little cute posterior over here. Jumping attack. And he almost dies in one hit. Poor Kirk. And he never even gets a single attack animation off. Poor guy. But Kirk bows down, and looks like his head vanished as he died. That was weird. But we vanished.
His armor set has some really weird glitches with it, though.
Yeah, that's true. Retrieve remaining power. Humanity. Pick up his barbed straight sword. And I think, isn't that all he drops aside? Well, we're going to get his armor in a bit.
The sword and the shield, yeah. You got the shield already up in the Demon Ruins, so yeah, now you've got everything.
Okay, I just want to make it absolutely certain. For some reason, I sometimes get the impression that he drops another little thing, but that's not true at all.
Nope, just humanity and souls.
Barbed straight sword, okay. The choice weapon of the infamous Dark Wraith Kirk, also known as the Knight of Thorns, for the gnarly spikes on his favorite weapon. This frightful sword deals only thrust attacks and causes heavy bleeding. So, again, not really any information going on in regards to that. Now, let's see with the
a pretty
witch
useful
dropped.
sword to use with the Leo ring.
Yeah, there's gameplay. Yeah, like, I never really go into all that, but there's a whole other side. There's some channels that all they focus on are things like that. Things you could do mechanically. And obviously, those really aren't the things that really interest me.
That's right. You don't give a damn about any of that, huh?
Not quite as much. Izelith Catalyst. And that's all they drop. And we see more of these little living statue things. I have no idea what the hell those things are. Let's take a look at the Izelith Catalyst. Oh, there's so many things going on in this. I thought I would have nothing to talk about, but honestly, there's quite a bit. It's just that you kind of I have to end up standing still and talking about them for long stretches. Catalyst of the Witch of Izelith long ago when her daughters were still flame witches, before they were engulfed by the Chaos Flame. Before the birth of Pyromancy, their wands were mediums for sorcery, but knowledge of this flame sorcery has long since vanished. So, at some point in history, I've said this before, the witches were the sorcerers. In Dark Souls, god damn it, they started mowing right outside the fucking window.
I hate when that happens.
Yeah. But at some point in history, like, Ceaseless is associated with sorcery in this game. But originally, it was the witches that were associated with sorcery, and they were most famous for their fire sorcery. And we can assume that it was bastardized into pyromancy now because of what happened in regards to the Chaos Flame. The life component of the first flame, that life soul, was corrupted, and now as a result, pyromancy, or fire, what would be most associated with life, was also corrupted. That's the idea with this. And it is interesting that the witch that we just got through fighting seems maybe to be protecting her mother. It's not really clear. Maybe she was just here, and we just so happened to find her and fight her. But she does seem to be a normal, ordinary person, so why exactly she was guarding her, it's not really clear. Maybe she doesn't necessarily have an allegiance to the Bed of Chaos, because the Bed of Chaos seems to just be a mindless thing now. But maybe because she was her daughter at one point, she felt bad about the idea of someone coming here to kill her. So maybe that's the reason why she was defending her.
Possibly just trying to keep people out as well.
Yeah, and along with that, we also saw Kirk here. And you have to wonder, why was Kirk here? Why was Kirk seemingly in the exact same spot, trying to defend the Bed of Chaos the same way? That's going to get more complicated. But let's go ahead and open up this chest and get this shit done. And I think this is a pyromancy. Yeah, Chaos Fire Whip, which she was using a second ago. Oh, let's look at that too. I don't know why I had it in my head there was nothing to talk about here. There obviously is, apparently.
Well, they just kind of throw it all at you at the very end, right before the boss.
Yeah, that's true. Chaos Fire Whip. Out of the flame of chaos, which engulfed the Witch of Izelith and her daughters. It does make it sound sort of like they were nearby when it happened, which might go along with the whole idea of the weird fire asylum demon guy also having, like, he was the source of it or something, or I don't know. It's one thing that you can interpret, I guess. The fire whip was wielded by the eldest of the Daughters of Chaos. So the one that we just got through fighting was the eldest of the Daughters of Chaos, seems to be the implication. If you agree with that, Franz, do you have any...
I would agree with that, because what can we say? She was using it, so...
Just to point out, there's a note here that says illusory wall. It's not illusory wall. Just... Why do people even do that? Like, why do they leave notes?
People
it doesn't even work as a troll, though. Because, you come down here, you see illusory wall, you try to hit it, and it lasts, like, you just hit it, and it lasts, like, 1/2 of a second, and you're like, oh, it's not, and then you just leave. Like,
that's one half
good job.
Of a second you'll never get back, Eli.
You're really laughing your ass off about that, aren't you? And here's what I was thinking about once you get down to the bed of chaos. I'm looking over the edge of the railing here, and you can transparently see the boss room down there, with a completely untextured area that you can see right through, so... It's not great. It is not great. And there's also, if you look even closer, there's all sorts of, like, really poorly... Like, you can see here, more untextured area, and you can see lava beyond. It's not great. It is not great. Alright, let's go down here and get myself killed by the Bed of Chaos. Which, even if you've done this boss fight like a million times, is super easy. Isn't it, Franz?
Yeah, I always bring a ranged weapon and just shoot the 2 chains from the sides and make a dash for the middle.
Yeah, I usually just go melee. I try to bust my balls about it, I guess. One thing that speedrunners do is they will rush to the middle and just throw 2 black firebombs over into the little orb areas. And that's how they deal with it that way. But let's show it the correct way. Oh, Lord. I forgot how slow the swings were. I always hate that about Souls games. Those enemies that always have the incredibly slow arc that doesn't really make much sense. And that's how you end up getting hit by it. Really stupid.
Yeah, it baits you into wanting to go too early.
Okay, but here we see these big glowing, sort of rune-covered magical spheres that seem to be protecting who knows what. It's really even hard to tell what exactly I just got through killing. But it burns off one of the branches whenever I destroy it, whatever the hell it is. Listen to the Bed of Chaos here. So one of its arms erupts. And I always like that sound it makes whenever it screams. Just because it sounds to me so much like, in the movie The Thing, whenever they start to burn, the thing out in the snow, it makes that same sort of screeching noise. I love it. Fucking love it. Oh, come on. Damn it. Fucking hate all these sweeping attacks. They're so hard to dodge, too, even with the ninja flip ring. Oh, well, but we go over here and we get rid of the last one. And that should be just about it. The hardest part of this fight is just trying to get over the edge. And this is a puzzle fight. And I believe Miyazaki has apologized numerous times for this.
Oh, yes, he has. He has, indeed. He knows people hate it.
The fire thing that erupts out of the Bed of Chaos does have a very humanoid-looking form, which I guess is just supposed to be implying that it is an extension of the witch's soul or something, if I had to make a guess about it.
That would be my guess as well.
Now comes the hardest part. Avoiding the stupid little flames, and trying to dodge sweeping attacks that we can't actually see. The easiest way of... Oh, shit. Now, look at that! She killed me from 100%. Just from, she chained 2 sweeping attacks together, so I had no chance of actually dodging it. And I'm over-leveled for this, so obviously a normal person has absolutely no chance of it. Okay.
I believe I've heard of the firestorm that boss casts. Somebody parsed it using cheat engine at something like doing 30,000 damage to them.
I wouldn't doubt it. Like, if the whole thing hits, yeah, I'm sure. If you get this hit by one of the little bitty pillars, it still takes off an enormous amount of damage. But that's probably, I pretty well considered to be the worst boss fight in the entire game, if I had to say. Like, there's others that are considered to be more irritating, I guess. And sometimes I have no trouble with this boss at all, and sometimes it's a lot of trouble, but... In any case, I guess I will save it for the next part. I'm not going to worry too much about it. I'll handle Sigmar's stuff, and then we'll just fight the bit of chaos again later on. Alright. It sounds like you're getting kind of tired yourself, since this has been going on for like 3 hours now.
Am I? Well, I've lost track of time. I'd be happy to keep going, but 3 hours is a lot, and the editing for this is going to be miserable for you.
Oh, no, it's not. This is going up as one whole thing. Fuck it. Fuck it.
Okay.
They love it. They love every minute of it.
I hope so.
The only thing I'm going to have to worry about is like putting up those pictures and video of Anuma or something like that. But that's about it. Alright, thank you for coming out, Franz.
Well, I've got to go through and edit my audio anyway, so I can just make a list for
thankfully
you
I can just... I probably can just overlay that for the most part, I hope. There were some parts where you actually dropped out, so it's good that you actually have that. But thank you for coming out, Franz, and for going over all this translation nonsense, which does give a little bit more insight into the game.
Well, it's been a pleasure as always. Thank you for having me and for tolerating me for the entire however long we've been doing this.
I'm sure people love it, though. This is either one of those things that people are either going to hate or they're going to love. And I can see why they might hate it, because I did a lot of standing around in this episode, which I kind of had to. Because it's
you also had me here. I think if anybody hates it, that's probably going to be the main reason why.
Oh, your self-depreciation is so endearing. But I might have you on one more time for some other thing, but maybe not. I don't know. It kind of depends on what exactly I need to go over. If anything, I don't know. Maybe it's a DLC. I have no idea. Maybe it's something like the finale after I actually complete the series or something. Then I might have one episode where it's just a podcast of everyone talking about something. Maybe, I don't know, if I could get someone else on, maybe something like that. I don't know. Just thinking off the top of my head. It's a possibility.
Okay, I'm down.
But I'm sure I missed a lot of things I could have potentially expounded upon even more. So I might have a bit more notes to go over in the next part, but this should not be something I have to worry too much about.
Well, if I miss anything, people yell at you in the comments.
Yeah, I apologize for not allowing you to be able to see video. And people that have been paying attention to my Twitch accounts, and that's something I haven't mentioned yet. I've been able to stream recently. If you do not follow me on Twitter, if you want to take part in some of my streams, which I can just barely do with my internet connection, it's like 480p, 15 frames a second, but you know, it works for the most part. If you want to take part of that, just follow my Twitter, and that's the way that I get my alerts out, if you want to take part of that. But I do stream on Picardo as far as streaming just me drawing goes. And Twitch, sometimes I can play Bloodborne on, and I brought that up just because we tried briefly to stream this on Twitch at the same time, but it didn't quite work out the way that we had planned because of the massive delay. So it probably would have been that much more distracting, I guess. Although with me standing around so much, I guess you wouldn't have been missing much anyways.
No, it worked out in the end, I think. I fear that we might not have had quite enough action in the footage to go along with all of the discussion. I have a feeling, and you said this yourself not long ago, didn't you? That people don't actually watch the video, they just sit there across the room listening to you talk.
Yep, that's what they come here for. They just love to hear my beautiful voice, which does not become too beautiful after I've been talking for 3 hours straight. So I've kind of lost it myself as well. Alright, but that's it for this episode. I think that's it. Do you want to have anything that you want to plug?
Yes, but it's not suitable for work.
Okay.
No, I don't.
That's enough out of you. Wait, did you even realize the pun that you just made? Surely you did.
That was the... See, now that I have to explain it, it's not funny anymore, Eli. Come on, man.
Mission accomplished.
Thanks for... just totally ruined that.
See, that's not really a sandbag. That's not even a stone wall. That's something completely different we don't have a term for yet. Where you actually take it and it's like, really? Would you care to explain that? No. Okay. Okay.
Someone will offer us a term that we can use, I'm sure.
I'm sure. But in the next part, I'll be handling the Bed of Chaos. I'm not sure what I'm going to do after that. I guess I'll have to do DLC, because that's pretty much all that's left. But I'll also have to handle all the rollbacks in regards to Solaire and all that other nonsense, which I had to do anyways. Because even if I got it the way I wanted it now, I still would have had to do a rollback to show you the him dying and so on. So, we'll worry about that next time, or I'll have to worry about that in part 28, what happens to be. So, this series should probably be over by, like, part 32 or something like that. Ish. So, look forward to that, I guess. Thank you once again, Franz, for coming out.
Always
if everyone
a
wants
pleasure.
to
Thank
see...
you for having me.
If anyone wants to see, you're still doing your Bloodborne series, which is more of a just sort of relaxed thing. You're not really doing an in-depth playthrough of it yet. You'll be handling that.
Correct,
I'm
yes.
plugging it for you. I'm plugging your holes for you right now. And,
Thank you. Just what
like
I needed after a long day.
And you have said that you wanted to get back to some of the other series that you kind of have left on the back burner since you were doing the Bloodborne strategy guide. So now that you have enough time, you're going to be doing a few other things as well. So look forward to that from his channel.
Thanks, Eli.
No problem. And I'm sure that you'll finish up that Final Fantasy VII playthrough anytime now. Anytime now.
Oh, God
And if you
damn
wanna
it,
watch
don't do that to me, man.
I haven't actually watched your Bitter Bits stuff yet that you've done with them. It's one of those things I've been meaning to get around to, but I keep forgetting about it. But he also does that as well if you want more Souls content. Alright, well, that's it for today. So long, everyone. Say goodbye, Franz.
Bye, everybody. Take care.
Now stay here so we can complain about Bloodborne for the next 2 hours.
God, I know, right?